Hello everyone, and welcome back to Batmania. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And we are really excited to finally do a commentary on The Dark Knight. Crazy that Batmania will be the first time we've ever done a commentary on this movie. And Eric, can I blow your mind? This year, and it's funny because we were front-loading these and doing some of these last year, and we're only just now to Dark Knight, and it's already 2018. 10th year anniversary of The Dark Knight, and yeah, I know, it's absolutely insane. But weirder than that is the fact that Dark Knight Rises was now 6 years ago. Like,
well, and so last summer, summer of 2016, I was the first time I'd watched that movie since Rises came out.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think I told you about it. I think I was like, yeah, I'm watching The Dark Knight for the first time since Rises.
And did Rises kind of sour you on the whole thing to the point where like it was tough to
Not Begins. I watched Begins.
Interesting. Okay.
But
because
Rises and Dark Knight are so similar.
And, yeah. Well,
yeah,
not just that it's similar. It's that, and we'll obviously when we get to Rises, we'll talk about this.
Totally. I mean,
and you know, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But it's gonna be so weird going to Rises and having all those conversations we've had for 6 years, because we've been talking about Rises ever since it came out.
Because the color palette of Batman Begins is orange, the color palette of this is blue, and the color palette of Rises is blue, maybe sometimes white.
Okay, but that's fair because they both have Dark Knight in the title.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but also, I can see how if you don't like Rises, it might sour Dark Knight in a way it doesn't Begins, because weirdly, in a way, Begins ends up working almost as a solo standalone piece after Rises better than this does.
And Rises, Begins doesn't feel pointless after Rises.
That's the point I'm making.
This feels pointless after Rises.
And I don't know if I go totally that far. I mean, we'll kind of assess it as we get into Rises when we get there, but which will be a few days, because we have a bunch of animated movies to do in the interim. But the big complaint you always made was, and I have this to a degree too, is that there's a whole philosophy shift where you get to Rises and it feels like, I mean, I know 8 years passed, but it feels like characters are specifically Gordon and even Batman to a degree are thinking about the way that last movie ended differently than the filmmakers seemed to have intended it in the first place. And I didn't really buy that 8 years changed the way they felt about it. It seemed like the filmmakers changed their minds about what that was. But anyway, I'm getting way ahead of us here.
It also shifts what the ending of this movie is as far as like Batman. Like, this is the beginning of like a Batman universe starting. You and I are going to be doing this forever.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll talk about that when we get to Rises. We're going to talk about just Dark Knight.
We got that out of our system. I had not even intended on doing that, but it just, my mind went there. We're going to talk about Dark Knight today.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend the whole 2.5 hours comparing it to Rises and talking about what Rises does building onto this. Let's, best we can, kind of put ourselves back in where we were when this movie first came out. And not just whatever, but just, you know, in a world without Rises. And obviously if it comes up a little bit, that's not a big deal. But I just want to promise people we're not going to spend the whole time talking about Rises, because we're somewhat notorious for our dislike for that movie.
You once told me I would never be allowed to do a commentary for Rises on this channel.
Yeah, I guess I changed my mind about that. Some things it is okay to change my mind about. But another thing I want to mention is that we got a comment the other day, and now that we've already started posting Batmania commentaries, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's now comments on some of them, and we haven't been able to respond to any of those things.
I haven't looked at them
before.
I assume you've looked at them.
Yeah, because I'm about to mention one, but so the idea, and let me backtrack for a minute and say, for people that aren't aware of this, originally Batmania was supposed to start a lot earlier, and we started recording these like middle of last year, because we had intended on or actually toward the beginning of last year, like only maybe a couple months after Marvel Mania did we start recording those. And so you'll notice in the first few, there are things that you might expect us to bring up from more recent things we've discussed and discovered, like
one of them we mentioned, the
first draft 89 script, which had just happened. Things that you might have expected us to come up with us that didn't come up in those. But also, not only did we decide to wait and put those out in January, of this year, but originally we had planned on having all of it recorded by then, and that just didn't end up happening for various reasons. So
well, it was supposed to be a lead up to...
us kind of, and it was supposed to be a lead up to Batman year, which I'm still waiting on a costume for.
Well, and so we moved to January because we would like to try and do the Manias each year in January as a thing.
That's the main reason we did that. And even if Batmania had, even if Batman year had started when it was supposed to, that still would have happened. We still would have put this out in January. And we kind of like the idea of making this a tradition on the channel. People really like the Marvel Mania videos. The Batmania videos already are doing stellar.
That's great.
People are really enjoying them. So this is a thing we'd like to do every year, and we're taking certainly requests and or ideas anyway for other possible Manias down the line. But what I wanted to mention about comments is somebody said, "Oh, so some really clever and sarcastic person says, okay, so you're only doing movies with Batman in the title, huh?" So that means you're not doing Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, right? So I had to make it.
We should have done that. We should have not done
that because we're only doing because what we said from the beginning. The idea of this from the beginning is we're not going to do every movie with Batman in it. We're not going to do all the Justice League movies because that would have been too many films. We're only going to do movies with Batman in the title, and then I've now had to amend that, put a little asterisk next to it,
except for Dark Knight
and say movies with Batman in the title or a synonym that means Batman. Okay, so Dark Knight means Batman. That's who we're talking about. That comment cracked me up to no end.
That's great.
I thought that was just wonderful.
Great.
So
and how did we not think of that?
Yeah, I felt like an idiot after I read that. I was like, no, that guy is so right. Anyway, so without further ado,
way to go, that guy.
The Dark Knight on its 10th anniversary, and this is a movie that I have certainly gone back to 3 or 4 times since Rises came out. It's obviously one of my favorite movies.
It's great.
And it's going to be hard to say anything we haven't said before, even though we're doing a commentary and have never done that before, but maybe things will come up that we haven't necessarily discussed because it's going to be kind of surreal.
It's like
going scene to scene. Yeah, because it's like a steak. Yeah, and Dark Knight was the birth of the food metaphors constant food metaphors because I had a few before. I had that thing in Power Rangers where I was like, it's like pie, but or it's like saying I'm going to eat every pie ever. Anyway, all right, here we go. If you want to watch it with us, get your DVD or Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. I don't know if this is streaming anywhere right now. I don't think it is.
I know Netflix just put up a bunch of Batman movies. I know Begins is there. I don't know if Dark Knight.
Is Begins there? I thought it was only the Tim Burton era. I didn't realize that.
I thought someone told me that they just watched Begins on Netflix, but I might be wrong.
Maybe so, and it has been there before. For whatever, it seems like they've got a weird contract thing with Warner Brothers where they have certain movies that go in and out because they clearly, we haven't gotten to the movie yet. We apologize. Clearly, they just have certain movies that are there all the time that they will just toggle to not be visible, because when they come back, if you watched it before, it will show you the timestamp of where you were the last time you watched it.
Yeah, they do that with a couple of TV shows. Justice League is always on or off.
Have you ever had that? Where there's something that's been off for a while and then you go back? Because I had that with 89, where it was like I stopped 89 at one point, like 15 minutes before it was over for whatever reason. And when it comes back, I look at it and that's where I was last time. And it's been off Netflix for like a year or more. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. I guess Batman movies are like
we're just terrified of saying something dumb and sounding like we have nothing to say about this movie.
No,
we're just gonna keep killing.
I'm excited because I get to talk about.
Do you guys want to see me try to juggle? I'll try and juggle.
I'm excited that I actually get to say things this time.
Yeah.
With a Nolan Batman movie. But anyway, but like I said, Batman movies on Netflix clearly are the McRib of Netflix. All right, here we go. If you want to watch it with us, get your DVD or Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. Get it past all the menus, get it to timestamp 0, and get ready to press play as soon as I say now. Here we go. It's the fastest I ever said that. I think that's pretty close. I think that's pretty close to the fastest I ever said that. Here we go.
I didn't think you were tracking that.
Everybody, please press play.
That'd be great if you had a Riddler cane.
Be really useful, wouldn't it? That'd be great if I hadn't broken that at the end of Marvel Mania. Everybody, please press play right now.
I mean, it'd be easy to we could just get a ruler or something, right?
And how do the Nolan Batman movies always begin, Eric?
What's the it's the blah. That's the sound of a Nolan movie. Blah.
Well, yeah, but this is...
well, that's what it used to be. Now it's the sound of movies.
But this is just the score. You know, just the way Hans Zimmer likes to open these. I love the soundtracks to these so much.
Yeah.
It's funny though. I go back to Begins all the time. I've told you that I listen to that regularly. It's kind of like a big soundtrack of my life kind of thing. This one not so much. And I think the main reason that is because long dissonant chords don't make for great listening.
Yeah.
Like the Joker theme isn't really a theme. It's one way, and it's incredibly effective.
It works in the piece
in the film.
In a way it doesn't when you're listening to it.
But Begins mostly is very listenable outside of the film. Now you've got like a couple of Scarecrow sections where it's making a whole bunch of just weird dissonant noise. I actually freaked out Jason, my 7-year-old, in the car one day with that.
So
he's like, Dad, I'm scared. I was like, and then I skipped the track.
Did you see this before the movie came out? This opening bit?
No, I intentionally did not look at it.
Okay, because it was on YouTube and I watched it.
Yeah, they did that with Begins too. I mean, it wasn't on YouTube. It was. You remember that where they had the first 10 minutes?
Oh, I didn't know they did that with Begins. I knew they did it with Rises.
No, we've talked about this. Remember? It was a special that they put on an episode of Smallville.
Oh, I think you told me about
commercials.
This. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you told me you saw it then too, but maybe not.
There is a behind the. Those are the worst subtitles I've ever seen.
It's just this program.
I'll
try to fix it. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. I know this movie pretty well.
Yeah.
No, I'd seen a behind the scenes documentary thing about Begins, but I had not seen. I didn't see the.
Well, and it wasn't even a behind the scenes thing. It was just the first 10 minutes of the movie.
But this I distinctly remember.
That's a thing that's gotten very popular. Where like to show the first 10 minutes of movies.
And I
before
think
they come out.
These might have kickstarted it.
Yeah.
Because it was a big thing with Rises as well. You go see this movie and you get to see the first 10 minutes of. Because when I watched this, it was on a camcorder in an IMAX theater. Because this scene is shot in IMAX, and I believe the opening of Rises was also shot in IMAX.
Oh, so when you say you saw it on YouTube, you mean somebody ripped it? Oh, I thought you meant Warner's like put it out. So people could see it.
No. It was not on the up and up. Because I don't know if you know this, but these movies, if you watch them in IMAX, will go to IMAX and then shrink back down to the normal screen size.
That's right.
Which must be really distracting.
I mean, I saw it that way.
Okay, I did.
Maybe it was a little bit. The scenes that they chose to make in IMAX were so spectacular that way.
And there's William Fichtner.
So that's the guy from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I love William Fichtner. He's a great character actor who really feels like.
It's too bad he's wasted in Ninja Turtles, but.
Well, he feels like he's put in his due, and like it's about time he got like a big role. I heard he's the villain of Lone Ranger, or he's in Lone Ranger in a larger part.
I don't remember that.
But I didn't watch that movie.
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember a minute. It's been a long time. You and your friends are dead.
I feel like that comes up a lot. We say
there's so much stuff in this
lines from this scene.
Yeah, a lot.
I also like to berate people by saying, used to believe in things. Out of respect, what do you believe in? I yelled at people sometimes.
What do you believe in? Funny. Well, and the big yelly line from this I'm always doing is Rachel!
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all of us.
Oh, no, it's not just Rachel. It's Rachel herself saying, hello!
Which used to be what we would do on the phone. When the phone was breaking up, we couldn't hear each other. We'd be like, hello!
So, did you call the end of the sequence when you first saw this? Do you remember?
That I don't remember. Probably not, because it was so, like, not grainy, but, like, it was camp.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I knew when I walked in the theater.
That's kind of unfortunate, because this is such a cool way to open a movie, like.
I also want to say there's a thing about these clown masks. They're a reference to something.
Oh no, they come from 60s Batman. There's the first Joker episode uses one.
Okay.
And that's where they come from.
Okay.
So, well, specifically the one he's wearing.
Okay.
And yes, it's that creepy looking in that show. I'll show it to you after this.
Okay.
I mean, I'll show you a picture of it.
Yeah.
It's a good episode of that show. It's the stage one.
One of the things that's so amazing about Heath Ledger's
with the opera clowns
is that it's so physical that when you rewatch it, of course it's him. Like, there is no suspense of... Because
exactly.
the way he moves
well, that's why I asked
so...
you if you noticed it.
Did you?
I can't remember. That's why I asked you. I kind of don't think so, but I think I was just kind of mesmerized by the production because of, you know, the sense of urgency and... Like, I think I was just invested in the production of it. Like, it's so distinctly different from the initial feel of Begins, and yet feels, you know, squarely cemented in that world.
Yeah, and that's his whole movie. Mm-hmm. It's very different from Begins, and I wish Rise had been that much different from Dark Knight.
Me too, yeah.
Okay, this is one of the things in this movie I will call so much bull on.
Yeah?
He just drives out in the line of traffic. Neither the bus behind him or in front of him are like, hey, this bus just pulled out of a building. Here's the license plate number.
Well, I mean, maybe they are,
suspicious.
and we just don't know it, and somehow he gets away, but you'd think you'd hear some screaming in the background. I mean, like, we hear background noise, but I don't know if we're hearing, like, screaming or anything.
It's just, I've always thought that was really weird that he just drives out in the broad day, and I'm like, look how clever he is. He's in a line of buses. I'm like, yeah, but the buses saw him pull out of the building.
And if any city en masse would be paranoid about gas, it would be this one.
Yeah.
And this is only supposed to be, what, like 6 months after Begins? It's somewhat ambiguous about it.
Yeah, it's 6 months to a year. I think we get a date about how long it's been Wayne Manor's being rebuilt, which was also a big thing.
Yeah.
That was a big surprise. Oh, he's not living... They didn't rebuild it in between movies.
Yeah.
Which
and that's part of the realism of this. And we'll talk a lot about the... like realistic versus grounded idea, and that this is where people really start saying, oh, this is a world where you're never going to see a Lazarus pit, and you're never going to see certain villains and that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know that there was that much talk after
coming out of Begins. Mr. Freeze can exist in that universe.
Yeah, well,
Mr. Freeze doesn't seem like he could exist in this universe.
And as I said yesterday when we did Gotham Knight, it feels like this is after Begins, you could easily fall down that rabbit hole and go in any direction.
Mm. Yeah, Begins could have three films down the line ended up in Batman Forever again.
This solidifies much more what the rules of this world are supposed to be. I don't know, would you call it kind of retconny in that there's not anything like the water thing, or can you like bring that kind of thing back after this? Like, this movie doesn't really need anything like that. It wouldn't really make sense to shove more super science into it.
No, and it's... Like we didn't need Joker going around with like Joker gas or something like that. No, I think it makes smart decisions.
And to be fair, Rises starts to try to go in the somewhat super science direction again, just in having, you know, the renewable power source and all of that.
All of this felt so revolutionary and groundbreaking.
Yeah.
That like, oh, they're like really thinking about it. What would happen to a city if Batman showed up? Oh, of course there would be impersonators.
It feels like speculative fiction, doesn't it? It feels like you're asking the what if question.
The questions that we never ask when we make superhero movies.
Yeah. If Batman really existed in the real world, you would have copycats like this.
Like there's people now, teenagers, and maybe even people a little bit older, they're like, this just has kind of always existed.
Yeah.
Like if this came out when you were 10 or 5, like... this has just always existed. It's really hard to understand.
Ideas in this you'd never be surprised by when you saw them again.
And, like, it raises the... It's such a well-made movie. It's so good.
Earthquake machines are just a thing now.
Yeah.
I know that we didn't actually do that in Rises, but there are certain things that we've had for a few years, and they've almost become cliche in a real short time from a lot of superhero movies.
It's just such a... thoughtful film, not just like in its ideas, but in the way it uses the universe.
But I should mention that just like with '89, with the first draft script from that, and it's gonna be hard not to bring that up a lot with things as we're doing these commentaries now that we've read that. Because you remember I always said like you can't have a lot of this Batman stuff that came after '89 without trying it first, but then that movie, if it had been made initially just like that first draft, would have done some stuff that Begins does and some other movies. Sam Hamm's Batman 2 script has exactly the same thing, and the copycat Batman idea is in that script. It opens with copycat Batmans, yeah.
Wow.
And actually not just copycat Batmans, a society of them. It's like they don't dress up like Batman. They like, well, they kind of do. I think they just like wear Batman t-shirts and stuff. But they try to, as a big unit, go out and stop crime.
Oh, like the Sons of Batman and Dark Knight Returns.
Yes, it's just like that.
Interesting.
But that's still what would it be like in the real world kind of idea.
Right.
Like he is thinking.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Isn't it? And once again, I find myself going, is that something somebody went back to and looked at? Did they think about that?
I'd imagine it comes from Sons of Batman in both places, because we know they're big Returns fans.
Well, and actually, now you say that, I think it's called something real similar to that.
Okay.
And I forgot all about that, because I haven't read Batman Returns in a long time.
Yeah.
That is a book that does not stay with me.
Oh,
I have to go back and reread it every now and again to keep it in my head. I also really... One thing I really respect this movie for, again, in the let's be as relatively realistic as possible, is something we tend to do in superhero movies, and we do this even now, is we tweak suits with no explanation, which is not a big deal or anything, but...
Captain America is one of the biggest ones.
But yeah, but that can be explained away by S.H.I.E.L.D., and then, the Avengers is an organization, so you don't need an explanation for why the suits change. But you do with something like Spider-Man, right? Like, and I mean pre-Marvel, where you'll make tweaks to things. I don't know if the Spider-Man suit ever did that, but there are other suits
from Amazing to Amazing 2.
Doesn't it? Yeah, of course. So, with this, it's just, you're going the extra mile by building into the story, oh, hey, the suit looked like this.
Well, yeah.
And now we've altered it and changed it to this. I think that's really cool.
The Batman films did that, obviously. The Return suit is not the same as the 89 suit, and then the suit in Forever is not the same as the Return suit.
Well, and even the Batman and Robin suit is not the Forever suit.
Yeah.
And yes, when you're super rich and you're making your own costumes, you don't really need an explanation because you could just keep monkeying with it. But so I'm not saying it's always a problem, but it is cool that this movie goes above and beyond and says, well, let's not just have him wearing some other suit, because, like, Bruce Wayne doesn't make the suits.
I do think
somebody else does that. And also, building in the I can't move my head, my neck thing, that's one of those kind of, like, nods to like, real-world limitations that I really like.
Yeah.
Like, I think it really works.
I think it's really funny because people always make fun of that. Like, they shoot it so you don't ever notice it, but I like that he can't turn his head.
I mean, you noticed it in 89.
Well, yeah. It's hard not to in 89. So this is a thing that... There's things in this movie that I thought were really out there ideas that I then found out were comic book ideas.
Oh, okay.
And this is one of them. Like, the idea of Batman not living in Wayne Manor, living in a penthouse in the city, that's just where he is for all of the 70s comics.
He looks so young here.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
It's really, again, so much of going back and looking at this is kind of surreal to me, because I don't understand how 10 years passed.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because even Alfred, who's... Michael Caine is old here, but he looks so much older now.
Yeah. And that goes without saying. That's obviously how biology works, but it's just hard to imagine that so much time has passed. And I think there's a big age gap, in the face between Christian Bale in this and then Rises. Which is good, because, I mean, 8 years are supposed to have passed, and they only had 4, but...
But yeah, in the 70s, he's like, basically was like, the Batcave's silly and being in Wayne Manor is silly. I need to be in the heart of the city if I'm going to fight crime, and so that's, I assume, where that comes from. Knowing that they were at least fans of the Dash O'Neill
thing where it's like, we can't keep driving out to the house if there's no house.
Yeah, you can't live in the Batcave.
Yeah.
And here's Aaron Eckart, whose career did not go the way I thought it was going to go after this movie.
There was talk of Oscar nods for his performance in this. Of course, it didn't happen. And I've always said Heath Ledger only got his nod because he passed. I don't think he would have been on the roster.
Which is not to say he didn't earn it.
He did earn it. He should have been there.
If he was alive, he should have been on there.
But if he'd been alive, I don't believe he would have been on there.
I agree. This movie would have been snubbed. Just like this movie was snubbed entirely.
That always felt obligatory to me. I mean, I'm sure it got some technical nods.
It's ridiculous that this didn't get a
It should have
Picture
gotten... I haven't looked, I don't remember, or I don't know, but it should have gotten sound design.
Yeah, that I don't know. I know that it didn't get Best Picture.
It should have gotten makeup, and it should have gotten sound design. I think it might have gotten makeup, or it might have been beaten out by something else that year, I forget.
And now, I'm not saying it should have won Best Picture, although having seen a number of the films that did come out that year, I think it should have.
I don't remember 2008 being a great year.
Slumdog Millionaire won.
That's right. Yeah.
I saw Slumdog Millionaire, did not care for it. I saw... The reader did not care for it.
So immediately with that punch, this, and I don't mean to steal your point, but I agree with it so much. With this punch, Harvey Dent is immediately 16 times more likable than he is in Long Halloween.
Yep.
And this movie, we just recently reviewed Long Halloween from the time of this recording, and Eric and I both said in that review that this movie takes a lot of stuff from Long Halloween and really improves on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really like, somewhat because it's just subverting expectations of your typical easy drama in both movies and television, I really like that Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne don't really care for each other and build a relationship, and that we actually buy that in the short time it happens. There's an okay love triangle in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you could argue it gets... The drama after it maybe is, I don't know if sappy is the right word, or just, like, kind of overdone, I don't know. With just, like... I mean, obviously he should take her death hard, but just with the whole, like, she had a note, and Alfred doesn't give it to Bruce, and I don't tend to like stuff like that, but...
I like it in the context of the ending of this film, not in the context of where we go with it.
And I think maybe that's part of my issue with it.
We should also mention that we've changed Rachel.
Yep.
I far superior actress in Maggie Gyllenhaal.
That's fine. I've never agreed with that.
Okay.
I've always been fine with Katie Holmes. I've talked about that. I almost said I talked about that in the Begins commentary. Obviously, I did not. I did not say anything in the Begins commentary except for the couple times I sort of cheated.
But I also tend to forget that Katie Holmes was in Begins until I'm watching Begins. She so cemented herself in my mind as Rachel.
There's a part of me that kind of wishes she looked closer. I mean, like...
I think they have similar eyes.
Like, I guess I like that she comes in and she's not just, like, trying to do an impression of what the other actress did. So, like, the performances should be, you know, unique to the actresses so that it doesn't feel like she's, like, parroting or something. But, and... I've said this before, I know there's a lot of people that don't agree with this. I always felt like she looked too old in this. Like,
oh, interesting.
Something about, like, when you put Katie Holmes from Begins and Maggie Gyllenhaal in this next to each other, Gyllenhaal looks 5 or 10 years older to me.
Interesting. I don't have that.
And I don't know, and that's not a, oh, this actress looks old thing.
She looks much older than the previous actress that played her.
Just in the movie. Like, I feel like it's a makeup thing before it's anything. Because I've seen her in other movies, and it doesn't look like that. But...
Well, and I remember when I first saw this, I thought she was, like, aggressively unattractive. Where I was like, they cast this person, but I don't feel that. Like, I don't know what made me feel that. Like, and not that she was unattractive, but that, like, the makeup...
That's what I'm trying to say, yeah.
But I've either grown used to it, or I don't know what I was talking about when I was 17.
You could make the argument, well, the problem isn't Maggie Gyllenhaal, it's Katie Holmes. It's that Katie Holmes looks like a kid and is playing too much like a kid. And I've heard people say things like that.
Because I think Maggie Gyllenhaal looks
very
more age-appropriate to Christian Bale.
Me too, but the problem is it feels like one of these actresses, like in the first movie, it seems like the character is 25, and in this movie she's 35. And that's how I always saw it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But this is probably more accurate. Or not accurate. This is probably more toward what it should have been. So I'll agree with, it's too bad we didn't have her in the first place, but I also will stick up for Katie Holmes all day long in that first movie. I think she's fine in it.
Sure.
And I have no problem with the double slap. And like I don't want to go back and just say all the things I didn't get to say last time it begins. I don't have a problem with the double slap, and I don't know why she gets crap for the double slap.
I think I'm the only one I've never heard anyone else bring that up. That might just okay.
I have.
Okay.
People really like to make fun of the double slap. For the record, I kind of like the double slap.
There it is. There's where we talk about the turn your head.
Yeah, it's great.
He doesn't back out anywhere. He drives in to all places. The Batmobile never goes backwards.
That is not true, sir. Because in the chase scene...
It begins when he backs into the two cars.
He breaks a bunch of cars.
Yeah, you're right.
He does back in. Now, he doesn't back out of a driveway, but that's a euphemism.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. Sometimes I think Christian Bale got cast for this part because of the way he's able to look like a total slimy jerkface when he's Bruce Wayne.
Which is, of course, like what he did for American Psycho.
Yeah. He's just got the creepiest smile, and like he looks like he does not look above board at all when he's Bruce Wayne. I think he does a really good job of that.
I think that way, like in these scenes, because like he kind of plays Bruce Wayne like Patrick Bateman, except for when he's alone with Alfred.
He does that eyebrow thing, that like downturned eyebrow thing.
Mm-hmm.
This like false sincerity thing.
I also like the question asked here about whether Wayne Manor is in the city limits.
Yes. A question we've all asked.
And I think it changes. I think sometimes it is and sometimes it's not.
Well, here's the thing. That also could be, and maybe I'm stretching when I say this, that also could be a 60s Batman nod. Because remember, Gotham City, 14 miles. It's not in the It's not in the city limits in that show. And we know there's little nods to 60s Batman, you know, a few times in these movies. They're clearly going back and looking at that because we have the mask. We talked about that, and the little melody that you play on the piano to get into Wayne Manor is the 60s Batman theme. So like, there's stuff all over it.
Mm. Oh God, I hope she doesn't put that over my face. Everyone will know.
I hope no one's looking at this pensive stare I'm making right now that is completely out of character for what I've been doing this entire evening. And look how coiffed his hair is.
Yep.
They do a great job of making Bruce Wayne look like an action figure.
Yeah.
I really like that. I was giddy the first time I saw Batman Begins and realized that they were going in the Bruce Wayne Playboy direction. And where he and Alfred actually spell out the plan of, I'm going to pretend to be dense and disinterested, and I'm gonna, and Alfred says, well look, you've gotta pretend to have fun. Maybe you'll start having like I always really appreciated that. So this is gonna be one of the, this goes without saying, but one of the greatest entrances for a villain in anything.
Yeah.
And this was really important. That you won people over on this look right away, because a lot of people were not really sure about this and felt like maybe this was. I mean, I was one of these people. I was really
that first image was terrible.
That we were going to have too much of a but then when you see the movie, it makes sense that that's the first thing they gave us. It's just they're too close to it and they don't know that's going to look so far off the beaten path, or maybe they do, and that's part of the marketing strategy. Is make people curious and unsure, and then win them over, and that's exactly what they did. Do you agree with this statement? As much of a reinvention of the Joker as he is in this, he's also really classical at the same time.
No, absolutely. He's doing his own take on the very traditional comic book Joker. He's very true to the comics. He has the thing that almost all Jokers have forgotten at this point, which is...
He's funny.
He's not... He is funny, but he also... And he's entertaining himself.
Yeah, good call.
But he has that, like, manic rage thing, where, like, sometimes he'll just get angry, and then he'll be completely calm. That's a thing that's a real traditional Joker thing that I feel like has completely been lost in modern comics, at least.
And he is the only on-screen Joker I think we've ever had, maybe even including animated ones, although those might be fighting words, that is clearly not crazy.
You don't think he's crazy?
He's not crazy. Well, this is the so crazy he's not crazy Joker. This is a Joker that is fully lucid, knows exactly what he's doing. Now, you can make the argument that he is insane because he thinks the things he's doing are perfectly normal, in that this is what
the world actually needs.
This is what and this is what, if you let yourself be like the full embodiment of the actual human condition, this is what we should all be like. But he's fully aware of what he's doing.
No, he absolutely is fully aware of what he's doing.
Because you hear this a lot with Joker, with in the comics, the philosophy of like I'm not insane, everything else is.
Yeah.
But then that's what an insane person would say. And so, like, I think we can have a really good debate about whether or not this Joker is crazy. But I think it's the only one where you could make the argument.
It depends on, I guess, where the line is.
And I guess who's writing the Mark Hamill Joker. Because maybe he can sometimes get close to that, but the television.
We're totally talking about. We're totally ignoring the star of this film, Michael Jai White.
Yes, we are. It's really cool
as
he's here.
Gamble.
I thought you were going to say we're ignoring the star of the film, Mr. Lau.
No, Mr. Lau is one of two actors in this film that I will never stop seeing in everything I watch.
And he keeps playing the same character. Lau shows up in everything, and I really want him to just be called Lau every time.
Yeah.
Because, now, not always, but 70% of the time I've seen him, he's playing this exact role. Where he's this He's this guy that has all this money, and he's got front companies, and he's pretending like
he's one of the floating heads of doom in Avengers, right? He's one of those people.
Is he?
I think so.
I think maybe he is.
Well, and then actually plays the character in Winter Soldier. But I think he's one of the...
Is that one of the floating heads?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I knew there was someone from these... Because I always make fun of the floating heads in that for all having previously played supervillains. Or bad guys of some kind. Michael J. White. I wish you would get a bigger role in a movie like this.
Yeah.
And I wish they hadn't killed you off-screen in a comic book in Arrow.
So this is going to be weird and something that no one who wasn't there at the time would ever bring up, and maybe most people don't even remember.
Yeah?
His delivery of "here's my card" is different in the trailer, and I like it better in the trailer.
I don't remember that.
Here it's just like, "Here's my card." In the trailer, it's like, "Here's my card."
Which seems like an almost trailer fodder kind of thing, really.
Yeah.
Although I think the delivery they gave us ends that scene better. That's better for a trailer, but I can kind of see creatively why they did it that way. That almost has too much of a sense of finality.
Yeah.
To end that movie, that scene, like that. They want you to remember the pencil trick. The end of that scene is not supposed to be the memorable part. Sometimes, doing a dolly shot like this, where you circle around people, doesn't work. And here it does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is the shot from
we're not spinning on. Oh, you're right. Except we don't go underneath.
Yeah, but we do this shot as well, and we do it from above.
But you're right. We do sort of bring it back at the end, like we do in Long Halloween, in that we put these three guys together again, but they're not in this location.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that they create a threesome for justice, and that they do that whole thing.
For justice.
For justice!
I like that it's a hidden elevator down to their R&D department, which is a totally above-board section of the company.
Yeah, that's weird. Why is it hidden? I guess because now he's making Batman things.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like how realistic we are about the fact that Bruce Wayne could not possibly hide in plain sight forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do just have one token guy that figures it out, but it's cool that somebody who's not, and that somebody doesn't figure it out by, like, sneaking behind, you know, a wall, like, following them around or something, just by, like, putting two and two together. Because, and I think that might actually be one of those rare moments where we're responding to criticism from a previous film in a really logical and smart way, because I think after Begins, there were probably people who were like, I don't know if this is true, but there were probably, because I didn't hear a whole lot of buzz about that movie because it didn't do huge guns, but there might have been people after that movie and leading up to this that were like, well, if the Tumbler was being made for the military, somebody from the military would see that and would recognize it and be like, well, where did we sell that stuff to? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like this movie is kind of answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think people forget this. Begins was a sleeper hit.
Yes.
Like, the success of this movie was not guaranteed. Not that it wouldn't make money and do well, it would do that. But what it became was not a guarantee. They did not know making this movie it was going to be one of the biggest movies of all time.
And I have always said, and I think I'm right about it, there had to have been a large number of people who went and saw this that never saw Begins.
No, there actually
and maybe have never gone back to Begins. And there might even be a small number of people who don't even know Begins, or who, at least until it was a trilogy, didn't even know Begins existed.
No, there's a lot of people. I've met a lot of people who did not know Begins existed.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to this as a sequel that stands 100% on its own.
Yeah, could you make the argument it's not a sequel? I mean, it is, obviously.
Yeah.
But not story-wise. It's not written like a sequel.
It's, well, it's
It does keep in mind things from the previous film, but when you watch it alone, if you never saw that movie, it easily could be the status quo we're in right now. I mean, I guess it is kind of weird that you got a burned-down Wayne Manor, and I don't know if the movie makes it clear that that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Does the movie ever come out and talk about that whole thing?
I think so.
I think it does, for like real briefly. So I guess in that way, but for the most part, this does not play like a sequel.
No, and How is this movie not the #1 case for we do not have to do an origin story?
Yeah, I know.
Because I knew lots of people that did not know Begins existed.
But isn't it great that that it's the sequel to what I and a lot of people think is one of, if not the greatest superhero origin stories on film, and then it comes out and makes the case for not having to have those.
Mm.
It's also a huge testament to Begins, really.
Yeah, yeah.
This is one of the reasons I say you can make the case that Joker isn't actually crazy, because he knows the answer to that. Like, he knows what the actual story is.
Mm-hmm.
He's always laying this on thick. He's always pretending like this is all part of his strategy. He's got to be really unpredictable, but he's got a plan. He knows where he's going. He says I'm not a guy with a plan, but he does. I think he's good at. And there's always the question of, could he really plan for all those contingencies? That's always kind of a criticism of this movie, and I agree with that. But I think he thinks on his feet really well. But he's got plans. He's trying to make a point. He's trying to make a statement, and he's making his background ambiguous in order to continue to create that unpredictability, and also because it knows that a lot of the audience does not want to know where the Joker comes from.
Mm-hmm. There's a article I once read, probably from Cracked, but it could have been from somewhere else, that breaks down, they think pretty definitively he's an ex-soldier, and there's all this evidence that they point to.
That's interesting.
That makes
a lot of sense.
The big thing being...
Well, and how could you be that resourceful?
And knowledge of explosives and weapons and all of that, and the scars make track for a scar that a soldier would get, and then out of nowhere, because we never mention the military in this movie, when he's talking to Harvey Dent, he says, if this person does this, a bus full of soldiers will be blown up. Or, it's the only time we ever mention soldiers in the whole movie.
Interesting.
There's a theory that is his origin.
Well, and this is also really, really anecdotal, but if it's intentional, and that very easily could be a thing that's not intentional, but it just tracks really well.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the whole thing with Alfred and when he was in the military and tracking down the guy in Burma.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
I never thought that was him, just because I feel like that would be too long ago.
No, I'm not saying that's him.
Oh.
I'm saying that might be the movie thinking about ex-military people.
Yeah, you might be right.
But then I don't know if the guy they were tracking from Burma was actually a military person.
No, I think he was just a thief.
Wasn't he just a nutcase that was because he just wanted to watch the world burn? Yeah. So maybe that's not evidence of anything. But you just made me think of about that whole thing.
It's amazing how many things of this in this movie have just become standard speech things, like just standard phrases. Just want to watch the world burn is just a thing that we now describe certain people as, or certain actions as.
No, that's right.
And there's a couple of things from this movie. Like, this movie... This might be one of the last movies that I can think of that embed itself in culture that much, that it's still there. Like, it wasn't the jokes and references to this movie are not fads. 10 years later, we are still addressing them and dealing with them. And they've become part of culture in a way that I think a lot of blockbusters haven't.
And a lot of it is kind of like in admirable or endearing kind of making fun of something.
Well, yeah. Well, the Batman voice, the Joker voice.
Yeah. I mean, the Batman voice arguably doesn't work great, and the movie works despite it, whereas the Joker voice is very effective.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason... But to your point, I think a lot of the reason that we poke fun of the things we poke fun of is because this movie's so memorable and we love it.
Yeah, well, it's the...
I'm speaking for us personally.
Well, it's the thing that you always talk about with Star Trek Club. We're like, you're making fun of it because you love it.
We used to have people that would come to Star Trek Club and thought we hated Star Trek. They're like, do you even like Star Trek? It's like, no, you tend to... If it's something that you're really invested in, you're more critical of, you find more of the mistakes in things, but it's also, like, it's more fun
I've watched this thing so many times, I've noticed this really dumb thing here.
Yeah, you're still enjoying it despite all that.
Yeah.
And you find those things even in the good episodes.
That's part of what being a fan of something is.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, because you're getting joy out of this dumb thing. Or even the thing that's not dumb that we've just made dumb.
But you can still have enough perspective to be like, you know, even though there's this and this and this and this that I think is wrong with this or stupid or whatever, you know, it still overall works. Or the opposite of that, even though this is so much fun to watch and, you know, make fun of and stuff, I still recognize it's not really working. It was kind of a big deal going to Hong Kong because you'd never had Batman outside of Gotham in a movie before.
But it was also the thing, at least for me, and I feel like a lot of people I talked to, this was the big thing where people like, you could have trimmed it here. We didn't need to go to Hong Kong.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Because this really is kind of an aside.
It's filler. You know why I think it's here? Because there's not enough Batman in this movie.
That's fair.
Or maybe that's what they're thinking. Is they're kind of worried, you know,
there needs to be an action beat.
We need a good action beat here. And so this is kind of a choice, and it's not a right or wrong idea until you get it all together and you see how the pacing is, right? So could we have just been told in an aside, oh, yeah, Alfred, last night I did the Skyhook thing and I got this information?
Or could he just catch Lau at the launch pad and not have him leave at all?
That too. But sometimes you get scenes like this in movies where I'm not even convinced you actually need them. Like you could have just described do we really need to see this happen?
Well, I think it would be weird if, in an aside, he's like, by the way, I went to China last night.
Yeah.
Like maybe we do need to see China if we're just going to say we went to China last night.
Well, sure, but you could just see Bruce Wayne gets on a plane.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you know cut to this. But you could also argue, again, this movie is working as a standalone thing. So we need to see Batman in his element. We need to see him when he's succeeding because he's going to fail later. Maybe that's the best argument for this.
Yeah, maybe so.
Is we need to see him accomplish something very complicated so that when well, and also, you know what? Actually, I'm going to argue myself completely out of this scene doesn't need to be here by saying this. Because I do think that the majority of the reason this is here is because of Skyhook. Is because Christopher Nolan wants to do Bond things in his Batman movie. But, hear me out, I think this has to be here because these are the kinds of criminals Batman's used to fighting. And he's about to deal with one that's unpredictable and he doesn't understand.
That's true, but we have so much of the mob in this movie. We get a lot of what crime is, or what.
But not Batman going up against it. This is important for his character arc. He's confident. He's in a place right now where he's always winning. You need to see him win once. Maybe that's the best argument for it.
Okay.
Now, I should say the guy who plays Lau is great. He's the smarmy stuff. I think he's really good at.
Yeah.
I said this in the rewind. I go to movies like this to learn things. I didn't know what a RICO case was.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure it doesn't work the way they say it works.
Right, but what I was going to say is it all feels real, right?
Yeah. Well, I have all of their accounts.
It is maybe kind of weird the way she finishes Dent's sentence here in a minute, where she's like, "Oh, you can try all of them." It's like, well, these are things they know. They like that's for the benefit of the audience. She could just make eye contact with him when Rico comes up, her eyes light up, and she walks off. There's really no reason she has to finish that sentence.
Maybe it's for Gordon. He might not know that.
Yeah, but because
he's explaining it to Gordon in that sentence.
Okay.
And it also seems
okay. I guess that's all right.
Yeah.
That's not how it ever played to me before, but that is a minor, unimportant quibble. But I'm very sensitive to exposition and dialogue, and I notice it a lot more. I'm a lot more keenly aware of it in movies that don't generally have that problem. And this movie is just overall pretty darn well written.
At some point, you need to sit down. We both need to sit down because I only watched the first couple episodes and watch Person of Interest.
Yes,
which John Nolan show after this because I'm convinced. Well, first of all, if you want Dark Knight on like a weekly basis, like that show was there.
That is that.
Yeah, it's
cool.
that. But I'm convinced that he was annoyed by people saying that this movie was realistic, and I was like, no, I'll make a realistic Batman because he has to be two people and he needs a computer system that can monitor everything and. It's just I've only watched.
I saw the pilot. I thought it was wonderful. I really want to go. And of course, I love that actor.
Yeah, both of them. I really like both of those actors.
And he's voiced the Joker once.
Yep. And the other one was Jesus. The lead is Jesus.
In 3 or 4 movies, that comes out before Rises does.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's that old now? That's 5 years old now? All right.
Why is that there? Is it just putting it in her mind? Like, it's not infected? Like, that's never going to come back?
Is
it just, like, fear tactics? Like, why is it in the pamphlet?
I don't know.
Because it's not like they're putting her fingerprints on there. I don't think. Maybe. Do they find out that they're going to get her by the fingerprints on the glass?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Then that's what that is.
For a second, I couldn't remember the context of that card, and I thought maybe it was like evidence that was put there by Gordon or something. Like it was like maybe that was supposed to be the card from the end of the last movie, but I don't think it is. Anyway, I haven't thought about that.
You know what's really unfortunate?
There's Batman. Well,
yeah. Well, I was just gonna say it's really unfortunate he's not on a roof.
Of course. But who
other people on a roof? Other people were on roofs in this movie, but he does not get to be on the roof, of course.
That's unfortunate.
I would
give anything for him to play that role one more time. Like, I would love to see Nestor Carbonell come back and do, like, a Batman Well special. Or show up in one episode of the New Take Show as Batman Well.
This was the first time I'd seen him. Or I'd seen him as Batman Well and didn't realize they were the same person. When I originally saw this, I could not deal with his eyes. Because, as we all know, he just has really, like, dark eyes. And it looks like he has makeup. And I was like, why does the mayor of Gotham have makeup on his eyes?
I'm a huge fan of his body of work. He seems to just show up in things I like and watch already. He's brilliant in Bates Motel.
Is he in Bates Motel?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
He's a main character in that. He's the sheriff. He's all over that show. He's constantly investigating them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. And, of course, he's in Lost. Which was where I finally realized he was Batman Well.
Oh, okay.
I went back and looked at him from this, because I was like, wait, isn't that the guy from Dark Knight? And then I was like, oh, and he's Batman Well, okay. Nestor Carbonell. Okay. I also think... Oh, so go ahead.
So, I have always said, this should have been the teaser trailer. It should have just been this video.
I think that's maybe a little bit too horrifying for children.
Maybe.
Is the problem with it. And also... I see why you're saying that. I think it would have been a cool, like, viral marketing thing to do. But I think have it show up in front of some YouTube videos or something. But I think the problem with it is, it might have made people kind of worried that this movie was going to be too serious.
Maybe. But it's a self-contained little video. I'm like, this should have been the first thing we saw of this movie.
Because, it's also really impressive how well this movie balances traditional Joker with more terrorist Joker. And I guess the Joker has always been a terrorist. Mm-hmm. I mean, dictionary definition, that's a terrorist. You look at the first Joker story and what he's doing with, like, the radio and stuff, that's terrorism. I don't know what else to call it. Would you agree with that?
It's not just crime. Like, there is a fear component to it that makes it terrorism.
Terrorizing you, and he's messing with your mind. And you don't know when he's going to strike. But...
I do.
This is very modern terrorist.
Yeah.
This is a direct response to War on Terror.
Well, it's interesting because it's in some ways
24 influences this movie.
Probably.
I mean, there are things like that.
Well, it's interesting because
it's
actually kind of more relevant now than it was then, because the domestic terrorist was way less so in 2008 than it is now.
Yeah, it was much more foreign terrorism.
So I actually, like, that's an interesting thing that I think is maybe a little bit more relevant now. Maybe they're forward thinking, or Joker has to come from here. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think it does there's a really nice balancing act there where like I said, it is a direct response to that stuff, but it's not like in your face and on the nose about it. It's not. You don't lose all the fun of the movie, even as serious as it is, and as horrifying as it is. I guess what I'm saying is, it's that great, like, escapism without being fully escapist thing, where you can comment on, or at least like build on social events that are happening without feeling like you went to the movie theater for 2.5 hours just to turn on the news, you know?
Yeah. No. It's wonderful at being a thoughtful, thoughtful thinking. Those are the same thing. Like a thoughtful, like really artistic piece that is also a fun, enjoyable movie. And I do think a lot of movies that came after this that were trying to do this did not succeed, and fell into that well of like, well, we have to be a thoughtful movie, we have to be really smart and really dark, and like they never remember like, yeah, but it's still an adventure movie. Like it still has to be fun and enjoyable.
You want it to almost like feel allegorical.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much a post 9/11 Batman.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so than
and, like,
Begins.
it's dealing directly with like some major modern issues, but it's not. But it isn't our world either.
Like Begins, I think you could have made like that exact script before 9/11. This one you would not have this exact movie before 9/11.
Yeah, I agree with that. So something I wish, and I just thought of this, something I wish we would deal with. Maybe part of the reason I'm thinking of this is because of Telltale Batman. I wish we would deal a little bit more with Bruce Wayne's, like I was talking about earlier, alter ego, where he pretends to be the playboy that's not paying attention to anything and is just out for himself, but then sometimes also wants to use his power for good things and has influence. I don't know that people would be reacting to him the same way that they are in that scene where he's saying, you know, this is the face of the hero we need, with Harvey Dent after the drunk speech at the end of Begins.
Yeah.
I mean, that's somewhat problematic. You know what? I said Telltale. More of it is No Man's Land. You remember the big problem that he runs into with No Man's Land?
No one believes in him.
He tries to go to Washington to get the federal government to reconsider dropping the bridges and stuff after the Cataclysm and to help out Gotham, but nobody will give him the time of day because of the way he's publicly conducted himself all this time. Nobody takes him seriously. I don't think people would take this guy seriously either. He burned his own house down, as far as anybody knows.
In a drunken stupor.
Maybe part of the problem is her hair too. I just think like her hair and wardrobe and everything is almost a little bit too conservative.
I think this is hilarious. The up, because there's no reason for it. It's not like that activates the bomb. Like it's just there because it's funny.
That's a good point.
I think it's hilarious.
And then you kind of have that Watchmen thing with the comedian where this, like the Joker thinks he's looking at a cosmic joke. And so, like, it's not funny, ha-ha, it's funny in that, like, everyone is, in his mind, unaware of the kind of facade they're living in, and that there is really no such thing as being civilized or enlightened.
Yep, just as up.
I never really thought of that before. That's hilarious. Well, it's not like a problem. You can see the Joker doing that.
No, it's hilarious. No,
really
it's
funny.
intentionally a joke. There's a couple of those, like the fire truck on fire. We never stop and say, look how funny this is, but it's hilarious.
I'm always impressed with movies that can make me laugh and then feel bad about it. Or I'm going, that's hilarious. Oh, I'm laughing at someone else's expense. They're a fictional character. Oh, but I still feel kind of bad about it. I love that. And that's what you should be doing with a character as sadistic but funny as the Joker.
Yeah.
And it's impressive how Heath Ledger makes that all his own and makes it so fresh again. Because we've seen a sadistic Joker in a number of things before this that kind of does that, but he just has such a unique affect about him.
Yeah, on paper, I think he's a very traditional Joker. It's all in the performance, I think, as what makes him him.
He has a really particular sense of humor, and I think that's why a lot of people latched onto him and dressed up like him. And why do you dress up like him? And you know, put on the makeup and got on YouTube.
There's people making
pretended to be him.
We talked about that in another video. that he walks past two people making out. That's that's the scene.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the context was when we talked about it, but we talked about it in a commentary. I'm like, yeah, it's the scene where the two people are making out, and then he walks past me. Like, what are you talking about?
So you know what? So you know what that is?
Die Hard?
No, that's them doing the same gag from Begins Again when he walks past the two guys in the prison.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I was going to say is, I think a lot of people latched on to his sense of humor like a really fresh, new kind of way to do comedy almost. And you can go back and see the influences, but and I think this is why it was deserving of an Oscar, because this could not have been on paper. It's doing what all great artists do, where they build on what came before, and you can see what the influences are, but they create something completely brand new.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I've always said there's a lot of Crow in his performance, but he's not just doing the Crow.
No. There's a bunch of different things in his performance, but it's...
And then that gets weird because both he and Brandon Lee both died right after these movies. And
one of the things I think is really weird, the people that were detractors of him acted like all he did was a voice. I'm like, it's a completely physical performance. He could not speak, and just... You like, from his silhouette, just seeing him move, you would know who he was.
Fully consistent. He knows exactly how this character moves and emotes and also there's so many layers even to just the voice. Even if it was just a voice, yeah, okay, but like he created that all his own. It's not a cartoon voice. It's impressive that it's got this horrifying lower register. That he can go from this to this. Like it's super creepy.
It's the regular register is very Tom Waits.
Sure.
And people have done videos of him where it's like, look, he's just doing Tom Waits, and I'm like, yeah, but then he goes up and he goes down, and Tom Waits doesn't do that. Like, he's not just doing one voice. It is a consistent voice that he can take up and down.
There are very few things, no matter how far back you go, that are completely 100% original, and this is how art works. It evolves.
Yeah, all art has inspiration.
You can't.
Nothing is made in a vacuum.
I don't think you can look at a thing and say this reminds me of something, therefore it's a ripoff. If it is exactly that, and there's nothing else there, and there's no imagination behind it, then yes, that's always a problem.
Yeah,
that is not what we're seeing here.
No. Okay, now this scene.
To be fair, I do think Bane might be 100% original.
No, because he's Sean Connery.
Yeah, okay. With a face mask. No, that's true.
Well, I mean, just the voice is kind of a higher pitch Sean Connery. Okay, so this scene is super problematic.
That's a good point you're making. I agree with that point.
So remember, up there is a party with the Joker.
Yep.
He's in Wayne's place.
I'm going to talk about the fall here in a minute.
And then we cut to the next day.
Okay.
We'll cut to the next day in a second. We do not resolve what happened at the party with the Joker.
No, that's true. That's true. It's that weird Smallville thing where, if you heard me talk about this, when Lex gets the green kryptonite ring and it's the black kryptonite episode where he is where there's the evil Lex and the good Lex, and he's got Clark and his parents at bay, and we cut to commercial.
And we cut back to the hospital.
And then when we cut, it's like they're at the hospital or their house or something. I think they're in the hospital. It's like, what happened in between the commercial break? Oh, that we kind of have that here. I never thought about that.
Okay, so there's a thing about things like that.
I've heard you complain about it, but I wasn't sure, but I didn't remember what the transition was. Oh, there's not one. Oh.
But here's the thing. You can get away with things like that.
Seems like a thing I should have talked about in the rewind. I never noticed that.
You can get away with a thing like that in film, because in any art is manipulative. It is a problem when you think about it. You do not think about it while you're watching it.
No, and that's somewhat of a testament to it. But it is something they're getting away with that maybe they shouldn't. I mean, like, maybe he just ran off, but we should at least see that happen.
Or someone should say something.
It does feel like something got cut.
Yeah.
And I imagine it probably did.
But we'll never know. We'll never know because Nolan swears up and down
that.
We'll never know because Nolan swears up and down that, like, the movie is just the script, and the script published is just the movie, and he does not include deleted scenes. He does not do commentaries. He believes a piece should stand 100% on its own, and he doesn't want you to know anything about the making of the movie, really. So,
Now, I can respect that to some degree, but at the very least, be honest, surely you shot something that didn't make the movie.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong about that.
Now, feels like something's missing.
With this movie. Now, with Rises, I think we're pretty darn 100% sure there were things that were shot that did not
We know for sure.
But...
We know for sure there are whole sequences with Bane that were missing. Flashback sequences. And we'll talk about them when we get to Rises, but... you were going to talk about The Fall.
So... when I complain about things in Rises, and again, I'm not going to spend the whole commentary talking about this.
I think we've done a pretty good job not doing that.
When I have complained about things in Rises that seem too unrealistic for this world, and at the very least, inconsistent, it's not that, oh, your reality's too heightened, it's that it's really realistic and then suddenly heightened, where it feels like you're just cheating. Things like, how do you recover from a back break that quickly, or... one of my biggest ones with that movie is you just recovered from a back break, you drop on the rope, and you're able to do anything. You're able to climb and do anything after that again. And people say, yeah, but in this you have that big giant fall.
He's wearing armor.
And he shouldn't, and like, well, and I think part of it is also...
The cape?
That's enough of a cushion for her to not break any bones. And here's the thing. I totally agree with that as being kind of a problem, but they're just compounded on Rises. Because when people have said that to me, they've been like, well,
there's one scene
you should dislike this movie for all the same reasons you do Rises. Like, yeah, but it's all compounded, you know? And like, that fall always seemed like a little bit more of a movie logic thing to me than just than the inconsistent... I don't know what the rules are thing with Rises. The more I see that scene, the more I agree with people about it.
Sure. But it's
one scene.
Yeah, like, if there was one scene in Rises, it would be like, oh yeah, there's just one scene. It's all over that movie.
If he just fell on that rope,
yeah,
but he didn't get his back broken, or it took him a lot longer to recover, or whatever it was, I wouldn't. Yeah, and that's a thing. And the difference is, it's not like I went into Rises expecting it to be terrible or looking for things. Of course, I thought I was going to love that movie. I never noticed the fall in this movie. There's a reason for that. So much of the rest of it works, I didn't notice it.
I don't think that scene makes sense. The bullet scene.
Okay.
All right.
By the way, in the I've never been able to recreate this because I just don't have great surround sound or anything. In the theater, that was so loud.
The gunshots?
Yeah. It's great. Anyway.
So, he loads different kinds of bullets, I think, into this big gun.
Okay.
And fires it into cement blocks.
Yeah.
And he looks for the one that matches. One, chaos would prohibit a bullet hole from looking exactly the same. Two, firing from a completely different kind of gun would prohibit the hole from looking exactly the same. Chaos would also prohibit it from, as well as firing from a different gun, it's shattering the same. Because he uses it to be like, okay, it shattered this way, so I can now reconstruct the bullet digitally from the original block.
Yeah.
That doesn't track for me.
Because it seems like each time you shoot it, it wouldn't create exactly the same damage.
No, it'd be different. But you're also firing from a different mechanism. If it was fired from a handgun and you fired it from a cannon, that changes things.
Well, yeah, because the
That's not the scientific
and
method.
The weight of the bullet is not all that determines how fast it fires out of the gun.
No, that scene
There's also the chamber and the firing mechanism and whatever it is. I know nothing about guns.
Now, maybe it does make sense, but to me, as a layman, knowing nothing about guns or bullets or cement blocks...
If that makes sense, if you know for sure, like if you're a person that knows guns or knows ballistics and stuff, like let us know if that makes sense or not.
Cement block experts?
The thing is, I never really thought about it because I was just excited to see Bruce Wayne doing anything
stuff.
Remotely detective-y. Fingerprints.
Oh my god, it was a bullet. Do you know that thumbprints are either no longer or soon will no longer be admissible evidence in court?
Yeah. Yeah, you keep bringing that up.
Because it's,
yeah, I read that a couple months ago.
It's too, there's too much variance. It is not like a perfect thing.
But it's close enough that we've solved a lot of things with it. Like,
yeah, but I think it's the thing, like with a lot of things, we're like, yeah, but there are enough cases where we messed up because of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I understand if it's not admissible in court, but we still have to use it to get to places. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just completely drop it out. It looks like you bought that for your eventual Robin.
Yeah, it does.
That looks like a Robin motorcycle.
Would that be someone who's named Robin, or someone who goes by a code name of Robin?
Well, I guess we'll have to find out in the next film. It seems like they could go either way with that. But, I like Bruce Wayne doing Batman stuff out of the costume sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Because when I said earlier there's not enough Batman in this movie, I don't really mean that. I meant...
When you're looking at it as a studio and...
The studio might have added certain bits or made sure they stayed in the movie because they thought we needed more Batman. I'm not thinking about that with a movie like this. This is a superhero movie, but it's not a superhero movie, and obviously the reason it resonated so much with audiences that don't typically like these kinds of movies, superhero movies, is because it's a crime drama first.
Well, and the complaint in Rises that Batman's not in enough is not just that he's not in the costume enough, it's that the guy is not in
Bruce
the movie
Wayne himself,
enough. Yeah, it's not just he's not in the costume enough.
But before I wrote an analysis of this, I had the same complaint about this movie. I felt like, not that Bruce Wayne gets lost in the shuffle, but it took me a long time to realize that he actually has a really solid character arc. There's so much going on in this movie that for the longest time I kind of didn't quite grasp what exactly was going on with his character, and that he has a real beginning and middle and end, and room for growth and place to go. And I mean, obviously we're kind of in the middle of that arc at the end, or in a way we're in the middle of that arc at the end, or at least he's got someplace else to go. But I kind of had to write about it before I found Bruce Wayne in this movie. But that might just... But some of that's just a personal thing. I tend to...
Well, there's so much going on. There's so many characters in this film.
As I say a lot, I don't always know what I think about something until I've written about it.
They look so uncomfortable, and I really like that.
We're about to... Yeah, good point. There he is!
Yep.
There's our guy. Another guy that will just keep playing this role over and over again. We're talking about Joker's henchman guy.
That's the one time you'll see him without makeup.
Right. I wonder if part of the reason we did that wasn't to get a sense of what the scars look like without the makeup, just to like solidify and confirm for sure those are real scars. I mean, they always look like real scars, but...
And it was weird, because they talked about how like they couldn't have like the permanent mouth, like that wouldn't be realistic, so they gave him the scars. Most of the time, Joker does not have a permanent smile. That is an '89 thing in like a couple of other places, but like he's not. His mouth isn't permanently smiling.
We've had a lot of Jokers that just have lipstick.
Yeah.
Or it's not even drawn on farther.
Yeah, it's just around.
I usually think that looks kind of weird, by the way, when you have the Joker smile that's like drawn on the face. It works great with this because it's just really perverse and.
Well, Bermejo's Joker has that too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a wrong choice, but I just thought it was weird that they were like, well, we had to do the smile, but I was like, but the Joker doesn't always have a permanent smile.
And the assumption you have to make is that whatever gave him the scar is, of course, what led him to the philosophy he has. Like, I really like that, and I've said this before when I talked about this in the Rewind, that we have a character here who unusually is fascinating and I guess as sympathetic of a villain as he could possibly be without knowing his backstory, where he's not two-dimensional. It's not like he doesn't have depth, that he's not really complicated, but he's a mystery. He's a quagmire. We don't know anything about where he comes from, and yet he also doesn't feel like he's just a walking philosophy. He came from somewhere, and you buy that. And what makes for a sympathetic character, even if you hate them,
and he's frustrated that no one else can see it,
and are supposed to hate them, is because that you buy that they came from where they came from, or that they got to the place they got to, and the worldview that leads them to being the horrible person they are if they're a horrible person. And I do, despite not knowing him.
So this scene is kind of weird for me, and I kind of don't like it, because he's with that girl, and she's talking, he says, like, she's like, I can't hear what you're saying, he's like, or you can't hear me, and he's like, why do you think I want to hear you talk?
Yeah.
Later, he will talk about how much he loves his wife, and that's either his wife, or it's not his wife. Either way, that does not track for me.
Why?
Well, he's either out with a floozy, or he's being really disrespectful to his wife.
Right, so he's just a bad person?
But later he says he loves his wife. Like, there's a point made of how much he loves his wife.
What's your point, though? People who love their wives sleep around on them.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems weird to me.
Oh, that doesn't seem weird to me at all. And this is a really corrupt city, and you have a lot of people that take advantage of their positions. No, I buy that. No, the point of that is to give him a glimmer of humanity before we kill him. And you might think that's a little bit too easy, but I totally buy it, where it's like, that's the point where he breaks a little bit, and is like, maybe suddenly realizes again, oh yeah, that's right, I do kind of care about my family, and I'm about to lose everything. I'm not with you on that. Okay. I think that makes perfect sense.
That's painful. I assume. I've never been through it myself.
I like how far this Batman goes without me feeling like we're forcing it.
I also like that, like, I feel like a lot of movies treat any kind of fall as fatal or not harmful.
Like, this movie maybe goes too far the other way a little bit.
It acknowledges that, like, you can, like, yeah, there are places you can drop from and you will not die, but you will be hurt.
Now, this does, if you think about it too much, this does, which I can't help but do, this does raise that huge problematic question with Batman of, okay, if killing someone were to put you over the edge, and Nolan's Batman is a little bit different as far as that goes, but if your whole MO is, if your number one rule is, I'm not going to kill anyone, and I would argue on purpose or otherwise, what I mean is, the Joker, or Batman might accidentally get someone killed, but if he does something that would be likely to lead to death, he would probably feel like, oh, I killed that person. That guy does not drop someone from a high place, because that fall, even from that height, could have killed that guy. That seems like a mistake.
He could have hit his head on something. He could have.
If you've decided, I'm desperate enough, I'm going to start bone cracking. I'm going to push how far over the police line I'm willing to go of like brute force and stuff to bone cracking. Take out his shin with your leg or something. Don't drop him from a high place.
Yeah.
And you know why I think we did that? Because of Flash. I think we did that because in Begins, he pretended to do that kind of thing to people. Now he goes all the way and does it.
That might be true. I also think it's possible it's because we know one of the, like, 3 comic books that they're super inspired by for these films is Dark Knight Returns. And he's doing that stuff all over the place there.
Yeah, but I think that's a mistake because, again, we're going for a somewhat more grounded Batman here. So you're in a world where accidents would happen and things like that. I mean,
that's
like...
true.
And again, I could sound maybe inconsistent when I'm saying this, but one of my issues with Begins, and I make fun of this all the time, is some of those cops in that
would die.
In that car chase would die. You wouldn't take that kind of risk.
I really like how pure Harvey Dent is.
Me too.
That just
and I buy the reversal, like
yeah, that just the like
he's too naive. He's not realistic enough.
You can't let them beat us.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really sad because, like, I think this movie, I mean, it ends in a real dark place. But like, I think ultimately this movie is, as optimistic as it possibly can be. But there's this kind of sad reality, and you could call it cynicism. I don't think I do. But there's this really sad, harsh reality of maybe somebody cannot, in Dent's position, at least in the way the world is right now, be as pure as he is and not lose something.
I don't think that's cynicism. I think that's realism.
Yeah, the optimistic thing,
especially with how not even
to say is that maybe someday we can get ourselves past that.
Well, and not even necessarily the state of the world.
Society has to change.
Not even necessarily the state of the world outside our window. The city that they have depicted as corrupt as it is.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that doesn't have to be modern commentary. That's just existing in their universe.
Sure. Which is an exaggerated version of, our big cities.
Yeah, he keeps logs. That should have been the framing device of Gotham Knight. We know he keeps logs
of Gotham Knight. Oh yeah,
yeah. We talked about
yeah, and then so yesterday talking about Gotham Knight, we were talking about how there should have been maybe a framing device to tie those vignettes together more, and I suggested Alfred. And you were like, there should be like a log or something where one of them is talking about their daily routine or just this thing that happened.
Wouldn't that have been cool if a couple?
And then he burned them all. He burns all the things we just watched.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That be cool?
Yeah.
Oh man, that anime movie totally does count.
So we do something with the comedy in this movie that I feel like a lot of blockbusters kind of fail at, which is we don't stop to have jokes and we don't pound you over the head with, and this is the funny part. All the comedy, or at least the majority of it, maybe all of it, especially when it's just Bruce and Alfred talking, or Bruce and someone talking, in Fox, like, all the comedy in this movie strikes me as really, like, well integrated and natural.
Yeah, like, this is how people talk.
This is how people talk.
Yeah.
And yes, they serve to give us a break in the intensity. And I mean, like, you can see story-wise how they function, but part of the reason that they function that way is because in real life it's not just, like, heavy stuff, death, oppressive things all the time. There's also light moments, and...
Yeah. Even
So the reason we require that as an audience is because we're trying to be taken in by this as its own reality. And that's how human beings operate.
I think a lot of movies, especially nowadays, go too far in either direction, where they're so dark and broody, there can never be any joy. I see this in a lot of the, like adult dramas, that, like, have no humor. And it's like, well, but that's not how people really are. And you see it go the other way, where it's like, well, everyone's an idiot and has to act like a buffoon, and it's all slapsticky, but we have a kind of serious story.
It bothers me the way we talk about this now, where where we almost like to take a tally quote and be like, were there too many jokes?
Yeah.
You know, was
there not enough jokes?
Serious movie too jokey, or like, you know, if you have a really, really serious movie, were there enough jokes? If there weren't enough jokes, it's humorless. And I think some of that is a reaction to the fact that both of those things do keep happening in things. Where, like you said, we won't stop and smell the roses at all and let people act like people. But then you'll have other places where it's just, you know, throwing a bunch of jokes at the wall and then still asking us to take the thing seriously. And so then people start counting it, like, superficially. There's a number or something. There's like some kind of formula you can put this in. No, you have to take things on a case-by-case basis, and you have to write character-driven. The answer to this is always let your characters drive your story. Always.
Well, and there's a difference between, like, a joke that a character makes because human beings make jokes, and gags. Like, and I think we have a lot of gags now, a lot of physical, like a movie that takes itself seriously and then has physical pratfall comedy. And the thing that I complain about Guardians, where it's like, beat, joke. Like, we have to end the scene on a stinger. Like, this movie doesn't do that. It just has natural humor, the way human beings naturally have humor.
And Begins did that, too, for the most part, and then occasionally there would be a joke that felt a little bit more like, this is a scripted joke now,
That's true.
Like Nice Code.
That's true.
I don't think this movie really runs into that.
No.
I can't think of an example where that happens. Rises has it.
Rises, yeah.
Some of them I like as their own thing. You know, that's what that feels like. I kind of like that, but not with the voice. I don't know why he does it with the voice. We'll talk about that.
So that's what that feels like.
We are inconsistent, and I never really noticed this before. This has nothing to do with the scene we're looking at right now, but we should talk about the coin thing in a minute, because I've never known I can never decide if I totally buy the coin thing. But anyway, I just want to ask you about it. But anyway, we're actually not totally consistent with the modulation with the Batman voice. We had a scene earlier. I think it's when he breaks that guy's leg. When it's not modulated, it's just the way he did the voice in the first movie. It makes me wonder if that's one of the first things they shot.
Interesting.
Or if they just didn't modulate it for some reason. I don't know. But, like, later on, it starts to sound different. And I guess maybe earlier also. But anyway, so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is the fire truck on fire. Which is funny.
I guess that...
No, it's clearly a joke. It's a fire truck on fire.
See, the Joker, he has his own brand of comedy.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious.
I never thought of it. That is funny. Wow. You just, you get new things out of these movies every time you see them. But yeah, I don't know if having the coin before he becomes Two-Face with the cops, because he'll rat on cops, calling him Two-Face isn't a little too easy.
Maybe. You might be right. I've never really thought about it, because it's weird, because it...
But I like the idea of like, making a point to himself of I always have a choice.
Well, but it's not. He doesn't have a choice, because it's double-headed. It's...
No, but he does. He's already made his choice.
Oh, I
see. It's the Matrix thing.
I see what you mean.
It's this doesn't make the choice for me. I've already made my choice.
Yeah.
No, that is the point of it. Slaughter is great.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
But it shouldn't be. Like, it's right there, but like... It's
but
like,
I never thought of it before, and it's like, oh, and it's spelled exactly the same way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was going to say something about the... Oh, no, here's the thing is, it's convenient that they're both in the same person, but they both come from natural places that I buy.
Yeah. It took me a long time before I understood why he was called Two-Face and why the cops hated him, and I talked about that in the Rewind, and the #1 comment in the Superhero Rewind for this movie, to this day, and I still occasionally will get one, is people explaining that to me, because in the review, I said, I legitimately do not understand this, and I don't think it's explained well enough in the film, and there's something I'm missing, and I need someone to explain it to me. And people came out of the woodwork to explain that to me. I really appreciate it. Like 300 comments about that.
Well, just that he's IA and he investigates cops.
Yeah, if you don't understand cop culture, this movie does not give that to you.
That's true. It assumes that you know
I thought that was a problem. I never thought of that. I was like, but the guy's doing the right thing. I don't understand what the problem is. Oh, regardless of whether he's doing the right thing, you're not supposed to rat on cops because they're your own and stuff. Which I guess we had a sort of a little bit in Begins
when that's their job.
But like I wasn't thinking about that part of Begins because it wasn't out to the forefront. But you had that thing with Gordon where like I'm not a rat. I'm not gonna rat on you, Flash, even though you're doing these horrible things.
And a town to spend. Who would he have ratted to anyways?
Yeah. And then now we have that person. It's Harvey Dent. So, can I read too far into the Slaughter thing? Because I just thought of this. Joker takes everything that seems good and wholesome and right and twists it and tries to show you that in reality nothing is what it looks like.
Is it because language doesn't make sense? Because English doesn't make sense?
No, it's just all you have to do is put an S on it, and now it's this horrible thing. Like I think that's really interesting.
You have to rearrange letters, but also it is now pronounced completely differently.
Yeah,
with an S that's not usually a sound-changing letter.
But I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if this is on purpose or anything, but that's almost a how do I explain this? Like that's almost summing up what the Joker is in just a word with a like slight difference in front of it.
Look how easy it is to make it twisted.
Yeah.
Do you buy this? The
just the fact that the Batpod comes out of it?
And it was there the whole time?
I want to assume that was a thing that Lucius Fox added after the first movie. It's weird that he doesn't tell him about it. Or maybe he does somewhere off screen, but like it's kind of weird that when they're initially driving around in the car, he's not talking about, oh, and it turns into a bike.
I also think it's weird, and maybe this makes more sense to people who understand how cars work. It is this tire and this tire. It's not this tire and this tire.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Because you see it, like, move. Like, it locks into place.
There, of course, is precedent for it, because Returns does it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
But this is a more grounded, realistic world. That's why it this is not a Batman who just has gadgets for gadget's sake. Like in the first one, we painstakingly explain why he has every single thing and what it does.
And that's not military. You would not build a tank that did that.
Yeah.
The point was jumping bridges. Why does it have that?
Yeah.
It could have been a modification they made. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it is something where it's like, so where did that come from?
Yeah, I almost want them to mention it.
Just a line where it's like, and I added the pod to the
like in Rises. I'm glad that we don't get into that movie and just 8 years later he's got the bat lying around. Like I'm glad that was from R&D somewhere. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There's something really cool and surreal about Batman driving his bike through a shopping mall.
Yeah.
And I also like the realism of this Batman just cannot exist as an urban legend. And we did that, obviously, in Batman Begins, too, where he's on TV because of that chase, and he shouldn't have been out in public like that, but he was, letting his emotions run him. And I just like that, ever since then, Batman is just a thing people know is there, but they don't fully trust it. We never attempt the urban legend thing.
Yeah,
and I think that's smart. I don't think in this world you could get away with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen on the big screen.
Yeah,
that truck flipping over.
Well, and there's that
again, a lot of it is because they actually did it.
And there's that story about how, like, special effects guys have kind of gotten lazy's the wrong word, but like soft.
Yeah,
we're like, well, we don't have to do this kind of thing, so like they don't think about it. And he was like, we don't know how to do that. And Christopher Nolan was like, well, you figure it out. That's your job.
And it's a lot of the time practical effects, and we've talked about a lot of visual effects where we can't tell it's a visual effect, and that's amazing. But something like that, it's night and day. If you had done that in CG, now if it was like partially CG where you did some of it but not all of it, it might be as spectacular. But the fact that it's all shot that way, and that they really flipped an 18-wheeler in the middle of the street like that, it was a movie magic moment. You're like, I can't believe they did that, and you can tell it's actually happening. Or at the very least, you feel like it is, even if you're not thinking about the way it's being made. It's just everything in this movie feels like it's really happening.
Did you buy he gets knocked out here? Just rolls off the thing and just immediately is knocked out. I've always thought that was kind of weird.
It seems like there's maybe other things that should knock him out, but I like that he's got a shock mask.
Yeah. I love that reaction. He never does anything like that in the rest of the film. Like, it's such a, just like...
He's just freaking out, being weird.
He's just being weird.
Yeah.
Like, he's not angry, he's just being weird. I like that. And there's pretty much, like, 80% of the performance of the clown in It is just doing that.
I'd love to see, and I'm sure we'll never get this, but I'd love to see a breakdown of what scenes they shot in what order in this movie, because that strikes me as probably one of the earlier things they shot.
Maybe so.
I don't entirely know why I'm saying that, but maybe it's partly just because, he doesn't do stuff like that the rest of the movie. I don't think it's inconsistent in a bad way. That's not a character. I mean, I buy it, but...
Well, but it's also clearly shot at night, and he has to get that much energy up at night. Like, maybe just a little bit different when he's like that at night. Because they probably shot that at, like, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be that energetic at night. Like, maybe you're a little bit more stir-crazy than you would be if you were doing it at 2 in the afternoon.
So, we have probably had this conversation before. Did you have... I feel like we've had this conversation and you told me you did. Did you have what I did in the theater where at least momentarily I was like, this is a movie that could maybe kill Jim Gordon off?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Like, I didn't buy... I wasn't 100% sure that he was dead. I mean, that he was not dead.
No. I was like, oh my god, they killed Gordon. This movie takes itself so seriously and is so like, you cannot explain to someone intense. At this point how different this movie is from every other superhero movie before it. Like, how much this changes everything. No, I completely thought that they could have killed Commissioner Gordon.
That's still funny. I don't know why.
Apparently that's improv. He's not scripted to be clapping. He just does it. He just did it on the day. This is a thing that I'm sure is real, but, like, it bothers me in every story ever. When someone fakes their death and then they have to tell their loved ones that they're dead.
Uh-huh.
And, like, they're always angry and always cause drama. Like, why couldn't you tell just me? And I'm always like, yes, why couldn't you tell just them? Why would you put your family through that? I'm sure it makes sense, because what if something got to them? Or they're just watching them to see if they're breathing.
What if... And like, it can't be a policy thing, because there's not like a police policy of faking your death. But there could be a mandate from the commissioner or someone who's like, yeah, you can't tell your family because they might crack and tell someone.
Yeah, and I get that, but it always bothers me in stories. I'm like, why can't you just tell them?
It feels less like cheap drama here because we don't make her a character at all, and we don't do anything with it. We just show the scene so that we are reminded that he has a family and. You know, I don't have the problem I do in some other things where I feel like in order to appreciate why he cares about his family, I need to see them more. I never felt like that with this.
No, and they've left him in Rises, right?
Yeah,
which is really unfortunate. I like that this tracks. Like, when you go back and look, it is Ramirez that has him.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it does, but, like...
This is a really just well-structured, well-thought-out story.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the lighting in the scene.
Yeah, me too.
I like that he's kind of a floating head of death.
There's also some kind of thematic thing, right? Of just like he's in the dark, he's keeping them in the dark.
Oh yeah,
because when we look at him, it's complete darkness. But when we shoot the other way, like he's got light. Like we're doing a worldview thing, right? Like this is kind of where he is psychologically, and this is kind of where the Joker is psychologically, right? Like we're doing something like that.
Well, and a black and white versus shades of gray thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where look, black, white, you turn to Gordon, shades of gray. And Gordon is ultimately kind of the personification of shades of gray in this movie, because when you get to the end and he decides to allow Batman to take the fall for everything, like he's not in a black and white place, and of course just working with Batman you can't see the world that way. And of course we talked earlier about how he won't rat cops out, and how like he can never be as pure as Harvey Dent, and that's ultimately kind of why he's able to keep going and try to help bring Gotham from the brink versus Harvey Dent, who loses himself. So Eric's having a hard time not just watching this movie.
It's a really good scene. I really like. Well, and I haven't watched it that much in the past couple of years.
Yeah,
since Rises. I love how he looks without the jacket. I think he looks really killer in the vest and the shirt. I wish we had more scenes with him like that, because I think it's a really good design. Like, it's such a good suit, like without the jacket.
I'm not sure how he manages to keep as much makeup on his face as he does. Actually,
I
think more of it would kind of crust off.
I think that they well, there's two things. One is
I just mean the character.
I think we've got it off a bit here to be the more realistic. Like, look, it doesn't just always stay on. But the other thing is, he does his own makeup. He learned how to do it because he was like, well, the Joker would constantly have to be reapplying makeup. So Heath Ledger is doing his own makeup on the day because he feels like the Joker would be doing his own makeup.
That's really
and he'd have to do it. He would have to keep reapplying it, so he's the one that does it. So, performance-wise, he's constantly doing it. So I imagine the character is constantly doing it.
Because somehow in this scene, and I think, like you said, it's because we're seeing a little bit more of his actual skin color, he looks a little younger in the face than he does in some other scenes in the movie. Like, he's kind of... it would be, it's hard to peg his age in most scenes, but like Heath Ledger was only in his late 20s.
Well, and I also think it's interesting that
it's crazy to imagine somebody giving this, but like as I'm getting older, I'm like, I'm already 33. I can't imagine giving this performance at 27 or 28. Like,
it's interesting because sometimes I can see Heath Ledger and sometimes I can't.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm reacting to.
I'm also much more like when I first saw this, I was like, I can't see him in there at all. I don't know if I'd ever seen a Heath Ledger movie before. It's like, of course I couldn't.
I haven't.
But I'm more familiar with his face now, so like I can kind of see it sometimes, and then sometimes he's just not there at all, and it's really impressive. I mean, obviously, a lot of that's the makeup, but.
I also always liked the choice of the tongue licking thing.
Yeah. There's a rumor that's not as much a choice as it is he had to keep doing that because of the voice, like it dries out his mouth.
Interesting.
But that's unconfirmed.
But it really works.
Yeah.
Hello. Wow, I almost nailed that, right? I almost synced that right with. Didn't even do that on purpose.
This is also a thing. I don't know how you do this well and communicate to the audience well, because I don't know anyone that saw this the first time and was really sure whether Batman went to the right place or not.
Me neither.
But I don't know how you communicate it better than just saying, here are the two addresses, Rachel's here, Harvey's here, I'm going to Rachel, and then he shows up at Harvey. I don't know how you communicate any better, but I don't know anyone that wasn't confused by that, at least the first time.
But I also, I've never gotten this. I talked about it in the rewind. I still don't get it. Maybe you can explain it to me. Maybe I'm going to sound like an idiot when I say this. How is Harvey at all, without just saying, well, he's lost his mind? How does Harvey at all get off blaming Batman when he didn't know where he was going?
My guess is just Harvey doesn't know and doesn't care. He assumes. He's not getting facts. He's well past getting facts.
That's true. I mean, Batman shows up and he's like, no, not me! But like, I guess he would have...
It's not like Batman's like, no, you understand. I meant to get Rachel. I didn't want you.
I got tricked.
We haven't talked about him at all. The guy who plays Not Bullock is amazing. Like, he's really good, and I wish he was just playing Harvey Bullock and got to be in this stuff more.
You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
That is...
I've seen him in other things, but I can't think of...
Yeah, what's his name? It's starts with an H, it's on the tip of my tongue. He's the guy that's got the big vendetta with Angel in season 3 and 4.
Yes! Yes!
That's who that is.
Yeah. He's the guy who raises Angel's son to hate him.
Yes, he's amazing.
Yeah.
It's not coming. I can't remember it.
Heath.
Well, now will never come.
Heather locked. I'll look it up. It's Holt, right?
Holtz. Yeah. Well, see, I keep thinking it's Holt or Holtz. I can't. Yeah, I think it's Holtz.
I'll look it up real quick because this is a Mania. I can do things like that.
Yeah. No, it's Mania. It's cool. Whatever you want to do. He looks a lot younger in this than he did in that, even though that was a few years before this, because he's got all this crazy makeup on his face. Well, he doesn't initially, but then later after the Hell Dimension stuff, he's...
Well, it occurs to me now that I don't know what Not Harvey Dent's name is, and I don't know what the... I'm just going to try Angel Holt and see if that comes up with anything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Holtz.
Holtz with a Z.
Yeah.
Yep, Daniel Holtz.
Daniel Holtz. Yeah, there you go. I almost said Holtz, but I wasn't sure if I was right about it. It's been a little while since... I'm starting to go back to Buffy again. And Sarah and I are considering doing the 4-1 back and forth.
I started it before I moved here, and I'd like to continue it.
You did the 4-1 thing?
Yeah. Where I would go back and forth. It's really easy when you have Netflix or now Hulu, because you don't have to switch desks.
Yeah, which is why I've never except unless you pay for the adless version, you have to watch it with ads.
That's true. Well, I was watching on Netflix, so I didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, but if you do it
now it's gone. Yeah.
I don't know.
That makes it more authentic TV watching experience.
That's true. I might up it and start paying for that again just to do that. But I've been watching a lot of it at Hulu lately. I feel like he has... Maybe there was a rule or something, and it just comes off really organic, but the Joker has a line in almost every scene that makes you, like, at least chuckle or laugh in your head or something. Like, And he's not usually laugh-out-loud funny, which he shouldn't be.
And this scene is inspired by a scene in Gotham Central, which you read the Good Joker story, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, I don't remember if Brubaker got paid or not, but he said that he was told, like, before this movie came out, like, by the way, like, there's a scene that is inspired by one of your scenes, or, it's, you know, is very similar to one of the scenes. And, like, he was told by someone at Warner Brothers, like, so I think he got paid.
Regardless of whether you're familiar with
Rucka.
Regardless of whether you're familiar with the source material, I think one of the reasons this movie is so effective is because of all the ways in which it's adapting good Batman stuff, or at least good scenes from Batman things, and then crafting an entirely different story from it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, man, they go deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, this doesn't feel like a comic book movie. I mean, in some ways it does. But, like, the thing is, if you go back and read things like Gotham Central, or,
Gotham Central was very much in step with
or Long Halloween, things like that, they're, like, tonally, there is a lot of stuff in this that reminds you of that. But it also, just seems like a good modern crime drama. It's not like 89 where it's, like, sort of the 50s, but not. It's present day, but not, you know? But even though it's not a straight up comic book movie, they go to all that comic book stuff to inform it, and it's really impressive that they look at that material, because I would make the argument that they would have made a solid Batman movie even if they hadn't done that, but it elevates it.
Well, and we know that Jonathan Nolan's a big fan of Batman and comics and things like that.
And it's impressive that Nolan's able to reinvent major characters and still be so true to source material. Because as we've said a million times, his Batman is not comic book Batman. Decisively, it's a very different take on it. This idea that this is a Batman who wants to be able to move on at some point and doesn't want to do this
as a temporary
forever.
crusade, not a lifelong.
Yeah,
war.
he is the human Batman. Now, as you and I have talked about, when you get to the end of this movie, it feels like there's almost like this, not in a bad way, that was the posters, not in a bad way.
It's a very cinematic shot.
But this kind of, like, destiny idea of, because he's always going to do the right thing. And I always like the idea that destiny really just means, like, following your heart and doing the right thing. Not, the universe has already decided what you're going to do. I got the idea, especially from that Joker line you mentioned earlier at the end, of we're probably going to do this forever, that this is a Batman that wants a normal life and will never have that.
I always took it as, this is the crucible that he goes through that gets him to regular Batman. This is his moment of doubt, and then at the end of this, he knows that he can never go back.
And in the best way, then, that we've probably ever seen it, like, before or since, this ends up being that usually annoying, like, prequel reimagining thing of, you're already 2 movies in, but you're just now finally getting the character to something of a semblance of where we know them. Like, that stupid Star Trek Into Darkness thing, where you get to the end of that movie and now we're into the 5-year mission.
Yeah.
But this handles that really well.
No, because it comes from a character place. It makes sense.
Because the first movie was Batman Begins, and this movie, as much as I use this as a joke a lot, really is Batman keeps going, or Batman gets started, you know, like...
It's really good that there are no, like, news helicopters flying around, or, like, anybody with cameras.
There's something really evocative about Bruce Wayne looking at the mask like that.
With all superheroes, like you've seen, like, hundreds of times Daredevil or Spider-Man, like, holding their mask and, like, looking at it.
But it's really interesting because this isn't a Bruce Wayne that really thinks of himself as Batman first. Rachel defines him that way at the end of Begins, which feels retroactively like just an obligatory comic book thing. Well, Batman is supposed to be the mask first. When you get into this, it is more complicated than that.
Well, their view on Bruce Wayne seems to always be what mine has always been, which is there's Batman, there's Bruce Wayne, then there's the real person.
Yeah.
Because the real person is not the person that left. Like, she's not wrong about that. Bruce Wayne is...
something in the middle of it. Yeah.
This scene felt agonizing in the theater.
Yes, it did.
Just waiting to see it. And if we would, or if we would And this scene also, well, the entire third act of this movie, I guess, which a lot of people think is too long, or that it shouldn't
because
be there.
Because it has what people like to refer to as a false ending. I resist calling it a third act. I don't think this movie is in 3 acts.
It's kind of in a 5-act structure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little more TV, but it's not TV. But
I mean,
it's just in that way. Yeah, sure.
But it's I was completely not put off, but distracted. Not even that word. I was surprised. I was really surprised because I'd read an interview with, or saw an interview with David Goyer.
Yeah.
Who said that he'd planned out a trilogy that would be the Batman Begins, and this movie would be the Joker. At the end of this, the Joker would make Harvey Dent Two-Face, and then Two-Face would be the third movie. So I went into this believing that this movie would make Two-Face, and Two-Face would be the villain of a third film.
Yeah.
What I either missed or...
Did you find yourself really disappointed that they truncated it?
No, just surprised. Because that's just not what I thought I was getting.
Because it's as impressive of a truncation as it possibly could be.
Mm-hmm. But they, that's interesting. They make it Harvey Two-Face like it's one name. I always thought it was Harvey, Two-Face.
It's Harvey Two-Face.
Yeah, like in Batman Forever.
And a lot of comic stuff.
Yeah,
does that. I love that we don't see it right away.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm talking about.
And that's really smart because it's really well handled. It looks so good.
I was going to ask you about that when we finally saw it, because I've heard a lot of people say it's too far for how realistic this movie is.
And I understand that complaint. I don't buy that he's able to stay conscious with his face like that. But
no painkillers.
It's just it's so well.
It looks amazing.
It looks amazing. It's so well created that, and I really like how they keep teasing you with it. Where I mean, it doesn't feel like a tease. It's just
no. It doesn't feel as long as it did the first time I saw it.
Yeah, but again, it's agonizing because you're waiting for it, and also like I was really invested in what's going on in that scene and how he feels about it, and you know the whole like Gordon, the thing that you guys used to call me was prophetic, and I've lost my mind because I've lost my ability to choose and all of that. But when he finally turns his face, I love how not teasy that feels. Where like they won't show it to you, they won't show it to you, and then the last possible like place you'd think that they show it to you, they show it to you because he just turns. You're like, oh wow, now I'm seeing it. Like.
I'm pretty sure this Mountain of Money comes from Long Halloween. Not that I've never seen a Mountain of Money before, but we have very distinctly a Mountain of Money Long Halloween. We know it's a big influence. So I think that's where this comes from.
Even though that has nothing to do with the Joker in that.
But from what I understand in further reading in the 10 years since, is that Goyer did have an outline for a trilogy like that, and then they decided to make it one movie? Or to make the second and third movie one movie? They're like, yeah, but we could do this stuff with Two-Face.
I've always been fuzzy on why exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
On whether they just weren't sure if they were going to make another one, because they had no idea that this would be the phenomenon it was.
No. Well, and they also, Nolan has talked about how...
Now, in the advertising and stuff, they did treat it like the next coming of Christ. I've always said that. But I think I think they knew they had something special as they were making it, not before.
Well, yeah, when you're looking at this and you're like, oh, you have to sell this movie, like, done! I can sell this.
I can sell this.
It's the easiest job I've ever been given. But we want you to sell as a comedy. I think I can do that!
Is it okay if we reveal a pencil trick in the trailer? Can we have that? Is that alright?
That would be a fun exercise for someone who's like an editing person to try and cut a comedy trailer to this movie. I bet you could do it.
I'm going to say this, and this might sound a little hyperbolic. I thought the Joker was fascinating before this movie. I had no idea what I was talking about. I have so many... Like I had so many new reads on this just as a character after I saw this movie, and the yin yang and the like Joker and Batman is almost a romance thing. Like my whole world was changed by this movie. Something that this gives me that I hadn't really had before. Like the Joker obviously has always been the opposite of Batman in that he's about chaos, Batman's about order. he's going to kill all the time. Batman thinks he can get away with not.
Batman's
doing
also
that.
very very muted. It's all black and very very sleek. Where the Joker's very bright and lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, and Joker is using what looks like positivity to negative ends. Batman is using what looks like darkness and terror to positive ends. What I don't know that I ever saw, and I'm sure there's stuff in comics that I just haven't seen before this or forgot about, but the big experience I had with this is, oh, you can make a Joker that is as principled as Batman. And that got me.
Yeah.
And arguably, maybe more so. This is a Joker that completely sticks to his principles.
Well, yeah, because there's never a moment where he has to stop and consider, do I need to keep going on this path? Can I keep going on this path?
Batman has to keep, kind of reaffirming himself, and that's why Joker is such a perfect foil for him in this, and why I feel so much for Batman in this movie, because he doesn't know if he can keep to his principles. And we have examples like when he breaks that guy's leg, that he doesn't know if he can stick to to his guns and stick to all that. This is a principled Joker.
Yeah.
And what's brilliant is that you see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And that just kills me. It hurts my feelings.
Because he's not exactly wrong.
He's not. Yeah. There is a grain of truth to what he's saying, and it's amazing that you can create that with a character we know nothing about.
Yeah. Well,
and that in a nutshell is why I think this movie is brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of Harvey and him are both kind of extremes, in that Harvey kind of assumes that everyone is out for the best interest and is, it's going to be okay, where Joker assumes that everyone is out for themselves and are basically animals with technology, and the truth is somewhere in between.
Yeah, and they're only going to help other people when they're comfortable. And I just thought of this, the reason he goes for, school buses and hospitals and things like that is the mirage of safety.
Yeah, these are the places you feel safe.
Yeah, and you're not.
Yeah. A hospital, very specifically, is the place you get fixed.
And the reason you are not is because you can't trust anyone around you. And the fact that I am doing what I'm doing tells you that anyone could. Anyone could turn into me.
Well, let's not give him too much credit, because we had to we had to de-staff all of these places after Roz had already infiltrated, so there was a lot of open positions to easily get your guys in there. That's all I'm saying.
That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that Joker pushing his point of you're never safe is because you're surrounded by human beings who are not that different from me.
And not that different from yourself.
So, this scene has what I think is one of the most memorable lines in the movie, which I don't know has been one of the big, ultra-quoted ones all the time. And I got flack once, Rewind, years ago, where I put it in the running for one of the great villain lines, which is just, do I look like a guy with a plan? I think maybe some of that is just because it, sums up, at least the way he deals with people. The, side note, the Two-Face leaving pieces of his face on the pillow was a really nice dodge.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've never
I've
noticed
never
that.
noticed that. Well, but here's the thing about do I really look like a guy with a plan, is I think this is the one time he lies.
Yeah.
Because he is a man with a plan. He's someone who pretends to just go with the flow and let things happen, but he's planned all of this out, at least to some extent. Or maybe that's the idea.
True.
Maybe he hasn't planned all of this out. Maybe he is just like a jazz musician.
And I do like how ambiguous it is about that, although he at least has some random contingencies. He might not know what exactly his endgame is, but there's obviously a bunch of stuff he has in motion.
But, I mean, just the bust at the beginning, that was well-timed and planned.
Yeah.
He is a planner. That's maybe the one thing he says in the entire movie that is not true.
Well, that's not true. He lies about all kinds of stuff. He lies about his backstory.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I think
there's a lot of things he tells the truth about. That's kind of mortifying. What I'm saying is, he's not lying about his worldview.
Yeah.
The lies he does tell are about trying to drive his point home. I think the point of the whole plan thing is, well, and I think maybe it's a contradiction on purpose. So two things. I think the point of the plan thing is...
There's a truckload of soldiers will get blown up. It's the only time we mention soldiers.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think the point of the plan thing from the Joker's perspective is my plans aren't about controlling anything.
They're just destabilizing.
Yeah. But it's an interesting contradiction in that he can't do what he's doing without scheming, and maybe he's somewhat in denial about it. Because what he's doing is not fully chaotic.
Yeah.
But he likes to say it is. So it's almost like, somebody who believes in anarchy who goes about it through a system.
It's at least true to him.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, even if it is a contradiction, he thinks it. He believes it.
Yeah.
When he says it.
Yeah. The more we talk about that, I think he actually does believe what he's saying when he says, "I'm not a guy with a plan." Can you hold the fort for just a minute?
Can I what?
Can you hold the fort for just a minute?
Absolutely.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Bring cookies.
Okay. I will try to find cookies.
I don't think we have cookies, but bring them.
I think I have a couple cookies.
That's always a good gag. He rubs the sanitizer on his hands. It's a really good movie. It's hard for me to not just watch it instead of talking. I really like the doubling down on the just oblivious Bruce Wayne, but that does also add to the thing that Cap talked about earlier of, would people really trust him and go to one of his fundraisers if he's a guy who doesn't watch the news and thinks like going to the hospital would be a good idea? That kind of doesn't exactly track. As I'm sure everyone knows, by this point, this scene is kind of improvised because the bomb was supposed to go off and it didn't go off, and so this is just him in character, kind of riffing. And like with a lot of things that we blow up in movies, there was only one take of it. You can't, because they really blew these buildings up. You can't blow these buildings up again. So it's really good that that worked out. And he just stayed in character, because if it didn't, we would have had a problem. At least for that shot. Yo. I talked about, hey, cookies. I talked about how,
they're black and white, like the Joker.
Bruce Wayne, hitting the guy and being like, I was trying to catch the light. Should I go to the hospital? And Gordon like, you don't watch the news. Also adds to why would people trust him with the fundraiser?
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's keeping up that facade.
And also I talked about how the explosion, where he's like pressing the button and it doesn't go off. And
yeah, I hate that I walked away during that. That's one of my favorite bits.
He was supposed to...
Yeah, it is true that that wasn't scripted that way, right? And that, like, it really wasn't working, and then it did?
Yeah, and they only had one take, because they blew up the entire building.
They're really lucky they got it the way they did, because if it took too long, you'd have to cut, and it's really cool. I mean, they could have finagled it, they could have sabotaged, they could have salvaged it, but they managed to get all that in one shot, and it looks completely planned. It's really impressive. Like, imagine having to stay in character, and I know this was one of those performances where he probably stayed in character a lot, but, like, imagine...
We know he wrote journals in character.
Imagine staying in character while that's happening, like in that scene. But that's gotta help a performance. Like, when everything is real to the point where your character is supposed to blow up a hospital, and it does. Now, I don't know if his button was actually connected to that. or if somebody else was supposed to time it with him pushing the
I would
button.
imagine they would not give an actor a button that just for the simple sake of, like, it could accidentally
what if he accidentally hits it? Yeah. I mean, in that case, if it never went off, you would have another take.
Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be the one where we could see the explosions, and then
no, it still could be. Well, no, not that. But I'm just saying, like, you would have another take if he pushes the button and simply nothing happens at all. You know, well, but you'd have another shot at it.
Yeah, but a couple of the bombs do go off. It's just that last one.
No, I know.
He's very punny and quippy. For half of his face being gone, you thought you were dead. Half.
Yeah,
he's having some fun with this.
It's very comic booky.
So is his suit.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's the thing is, when we say this is grounded, we mean relatively. I mean, to do something like Two-Face, and for it to be comic book accurate to the point where part of his suit is messed up, but he didn't do it to it himself and stuff, you have to give it some leeway in believability.
It's grounded, not realistic.
It is, yeah. It is a... This is not exactly what would happen if this happened in real life. Also, Batman, for lots of different reasons, the way he is couldn't really actually exist. So the idea is, you have to give it a certain amount of conceit. You know what I mean? There's a couple of gimmies with Batman.
Well, there's a thing that Frank Miller talks about where he's like, I'm not interested in writing a realistic Batman story. I'm interested in writing a believable Batman story, because you want me to write you a realistic Batman story. Batman slips on a roof and falls and breaks his neck.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's why I think that a lot of the time when people say realistic, they actually mean believable, and that's really the job in any story, is to make it believable, no matter how absurd or out there or insane it is. It's about an internal logic in the world it is. It's about believability. When people ask me, like, what do you think makes for an effective story, what is the goal ultimately, where if you succeed, you've made a really successful story. It's that you made me believe the lie as I'm watching.
I believe that the world and the characters exist, as opposed to...
I don't feel like I'm looking at somebody scripting it.
Or... which is not the same thing as making me believe it's my world, or that it's real. It's that it's real within itself.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to exactly reflect reality. It just has to reflect itself and make sense.
And that's what makes me invested. That's what sucks me in.
No, it's Harvey. We're looking for Harvey.
Do you think the reason we didn't make not Bullock is so we wouldn't have two characters named Harvey in this movie?
I feel like you could just call him Bullock. I also think it's because, doesn't he die? Yeah, he dies in that Joker attack. Which is also why I'm pretty sure Ramirez is not Montoya. It's because she turns tail.
Yeah.
Or she's crooked.
Bullock is in the Batman 2 script, Sam Hamm's made version of Batman Returns, and he's called Eddie Bullock for some reason.
That's weird.
Don't know why. But then I don't know why in Rises, Roland Daggett is turned into John Daggett, especially when you already have a John in that movie.
Also, no one reacts in any way realistically to his face.
No, they don't.
It's just like, that's what you look like now, huh?
And what's really weird about it is, you and I have talked about this a lot, all the movies that tell us that something is really horrifying, that to the audience doesn't feel as horrifying as the people reacting to it, and then you have one of the most grotesque faces you've ever made look believable in a movie, and no one is as grossed out by it as I am. That's hilarious.
No one's just like, oh my god, what happened to you? I didn't even know you could do that to a face and it still moves.
Yeah, I mean, like,
what happened? You don't blink? How do you not blink?
Wade Wilson's best friend in the Deadpool movie would have a heart attack and die if he saw that face.
Yeah.
Because he thinks Deadpool has the most horrifying face in the world and he can't stop staring at it. He just could not even be in the same room with that guy.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
So...
Oh, I know what it was. You remember when we did the '89 commentary and we were talking about how everybody's grossed out by Alicia's face?
Yeah, and it's just
we're like, I don't know that it's that.
Scars?
Yeah, like, everyone would faint seeing that. They would all react the way they did when they breathed in the gas in the Flugelheim Museum and they fell in their pie. They would fall in their pie looking at the Two-Face face.
You know what's a piece of inconsistency I don't like, because it's such a big thing in Begins?
Yeah.
Where is the train that runs through the middle of the city? I know we blew up the track, but it should still be there.
Well,
there
is no
train
clearly a different city. Now, again, works okay if you're looking at this as its own piece.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. You're not going to question the city. It feels enough like the city from Begins that, like, while it's not the same city, it doesn't bother me, except for the train.
Yeah, and I kind of understand totally aesthetically why you went to a real city as opposed to shooting on a set where everything looks really, really real.
Mm.
Having said that, I still kind of wish the city looked more like it did in Begins. But
me too.
On the other hand, we have... You know, we have to create some things in like wide shots of the city and stuff that aren't really there, and I do appreciate that almost 100% of everything you see in this movie is really actually in film.
Well, and that's a thing that does feel weird when you get to Rises, is that we used a real city, and then Rises we use a different real city that looks completely different, and for some reason that bothers me more. Is more jarring than
I think it kind of is too. Yeah, but even still, I wish there was somehow a little bit more consistency with that.
I want to say I heard rumors or people stating...
But that would work better for you, I think, if it was what you were saying you wished it was before, where Dark Knight Rises had was as totally different, had a different... That's a good way to put it. Has a different flavor from this, just like this did from Begins.
So I heard rumors / people saying it's a fact kind of things on the internet after this movie came out, that the guy on the boat who's got the tattoos... that those tattoos have some kind of connection to Black Mask.
Oh, weird.
But I've never been able to find anything that confirms that or why that they thought that. But,
interesting.
And that was a big thing, was a lot of people thought that if they made a third Batman film in the series, Black Mask was a big contender. I don't know why, because I've never heard Goyer or Nolan talk about it. Or the other Nolan, Jonathan Nolan. I've never heard any of them mention Black Mask, but for some reason people really thought it was going to be Black Mask's time and we were going to do a Black Mask movie.
I love the social experiment on the boats for so many reasons. One of them is...
Can you count the ways?
Yeah, so let's count the ways. One of them is all the citizens... Or like actually incorporating citizens into the story, making it about the people of Gotham, and that not feeling really sappy. Not doing the Spider-Man thing. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Like, I think this movie does a really good job of... humanizing the city, you know, in a similar way as it humanizes Batman.
Well, and when I was younger, I always thought the conclusion was maybe a little bit too optimistic, but as I've gotten older, I don't know if I still feel that way.
What I love about it is that it's a convict that makes the decision.
Mm.
That it's one of the... I just thought of this. It's the kind of criminal that Batman's used to dealing with, where he says criminals are simple.
Mm.
And he's proven wrong with the Joker, who's a different kind of criminal. But then we go back to a simple criminal who does the right thing and shows you that everybody has complexity. And I love that. Like I like that. And the reason... Another reason I love the boat thing, of course, is because... Joker has done such a good job throughout the movie proving his point that you have no idea which way that's going to go. And it's not like the your good guy can't win the sporting event at the end because that's the obvious thing, so we have to always subvert that and make it so that it's either a tie or he doesn't win. I don't think it's that thing. I really think I would be surprised either way that goes, because this movie is so unpredictable. You don't know which way that'll go.
So I have a plot hole issue with the previous scene.
Yeah.
So Ramirez calls...
I can just talk about the boat thing all day.
Calls Harvey's wife and says, "I'm going to call off the cops and give you a minute to get out. Run away. They're not. You can't trust them." She hangs up, and Harvey punches her. She never calls off the cops so that they can get out.
What's your plan?
How do they get out? To go to the docks where Two-Face is going to be. She says, I'm going to call the cops off your house so you can leave your house and get away because those cops can't be trusted.
Right.
And then Two-Face immediately knocks her out.
Uh-huh.
And she does not call the cops to get them to go away from it so they can leave.
Right. Which is why they wind up at the docks, right?
No, she's telling them to go to the docks.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I thought it was those cops show up and they kidnap them. And then they bring them there.
No, because Two-Face is telling her to tell...
Oh, that's right.
No, that... I don't think that actually makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. And then why does he knock her out? I'm sorry, I haven't thought about this part in a while. Yeah.
Just wait for her to then call the cops and call them off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, for a minute I thought he was trying to stop her from doing something for some reason. No, that's not
he made
what
her
it
call so that Gordon's family would go there, so Gordon would have to make the choice. This is
right. Well, that's weird.
Yeah. So until this moment...
Sorry, Pat.
Oh, sorry, were you going to talk?
I was just very, very quickly,
okay.
I was going to say the sadistic choice thing with James Gordon at the end is weirder after you read Snyder's Batman.
Yes. Because he makes the wrong choice.
Because that kid in the comics grows up to be a horrifying serial killer.
Where's he been? He hasn't been around.
Not in a while, yeah. And I love him. He's horrifying.
Yeah. So, before the sonar thing, the lenses that click down into Batman's mask did what?
I don't know. Is that a Justice League problem? Is it kind of have
they're
that
just
whole thing?
built into the mask, and they click down, and they show him the sonar vision. Before he made the sonar thing, what did those do?
Night vision?
Maybe.
We never saw that, and he's at night a lot, so I don't know. But at least it's not it isn't the Justice League thing where he actually has physical goggles that go over his mask that should have a heads-up display.
Yeah. But I also think, seeing this, I think you could do a Batman that looks like this. You could do his eyes like that. I think people would be fine with that. Like, picture that, but white.
My problem with it is it only works in this kind of low light. I think that I think it would be impossible to light. I think there's a lot of situations where that would look really stupid.
I think he's got that guy's dogs.
Probably.
I think that's fun.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like, oh, he's got dogs. No, he has that guy's dogs. And he probably did feed that guy to those dogs. Also, we forgot to talk about what is one of the darkest things in any PG-13 movie ever, where he burns a guy alive.
Yeah.
Because Lau's up on top of that money stack.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's just in the background, and then he lights it on fire.
I never thought of that. What?
No, they just put it off screen, but it's a PG-13 movie where someone burns alive. At least a little bit. But probably did death. This guy, with his tattoos.
Yeah, well, and he's the guy that ultimately makes the right choice.
Mm. That's not the one that bothered me. For some reason...
Who could have been played by the guy who played Kingpin.
Yeah. No,
I thought of that in the theater. I was like, oh, this guy's sort of like that. He reminds me of that guy.
The thing that bothers me is that the good people don't turn the switch because they're criminals, and I feel like... Or when I was younger, when I first saw this film, I was like, not by that. I feel like somebody would be like, yeah, screw it, I'll do it. They're all criminals. We live in Gotham City. And no one does. And, as I've gotten older, I don't know if I've gotten more optimistic, but, it doesn't seem as...
I just think that choice would be so hard. What I like about it is that the guy thinks it would be that easy to turn it, and then it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And the optimism of that is it means that the city has not turned everyone not human.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't gotten that bad yet. I like that we didn't change the belt on the suit too much, because I've always liked that belt.
There's no way he could have planned that so that they didn't smash into the floors.
That's true. Look, he's doing the best he can, okay?
But he did! None of them were knocking against the floor.
Zero casualties.
Yeah.
This Batman gets lucky a lot. Yeah. I want to make a point about the score for a minute and say that most of the things, with the exception of the Joker's theme,
mm-hmm.
that people credit this score for come from Begins, and I hate that. I'm not complaining that Hans Zimmer didn't write enough new music for this movie. All the stuff that he reuses is reorchestrated, and he's not just using tracks from before. And he finds places to take music that was usually used for a different kind of beat and puts it in a different scene and kind of turns it into something else, and it's kind of impressive. That melody a couple scenes ago, that really lush da-da-da, that was used in a totally different kind of place before. He threw that in an action sequence here. Before that was what he begins on, where Batman jumps off the roof and you get that really nice majestic shot. That's the triumphant Batman music. We're using that in an action scene where you don't know if he's not gonna accidentally kill people that are wearing the wrong mask. It's impressive he makes it work there, because it's almost too bright for that scene. But I also really like that, because that's another, like, well, of course Batman's gonna win, and then here in a little bit he's not gonna quite win, and I really like that. Mm-hmm. I would make the argument that maybe you almost need the false ending. The more I'm thinking about the idea of the Batman that just has not faced something that he doesn't understand yet. Mm-hmm. Where the Joker doesn't win by physically beating Batman. He wins by all the consequences of his actions.
And this scene is also one of the reasons I have such an issue with "I'm gonna stop you," because they actually have a dialogue in this about the ideas that they represent or like feeling.
Yeah, Batman speechifies a little too much.
He does,
but I don't know how else to do it. Like there are ideas that are conveyed there that you can't simply get just from the action. I kind of do need him to, for lack of a better way to say it, spell that out a little bit. I do think you need that. We're criminals, not monsters. Like, I really love everything about that.
And I also like how confused the Joker is once it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, he really doesn't get it.
As confused as Batman is before, when he doesn't understand the Joker's philosophy. His psychology, anyway.
Just like a Band-Aid, man. Just do it! Also, I don't think anything like this has ever really happened. But I really want to know. I guess I could ask Dan, maybe. I want to know what the legality of something like this would be.
Yeah.
Because he would be a mass murderer, but in this situation, would there even be a trial?
There's so many ethical ideas to talk about there, because it's not just the question of, like, kill or be killed and ends justifies the means. There's also a utilitarian thing there, where it's like, do you save, this many to save this many, and also the question of, should everything be decided by a vote? Like, there's so many questions. There's so many questions. I like that line.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's great.
That's a clear nod to 89, right? The way that shot is done.
Good point. I think you might be right about that. Yeah.
Also, his leg, possibly his back, broken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, there is a movie logic thing with action a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that. I hate this shot.
Why?
Not this one.
Okay.
I hate this camera move. I know what we're doing.
Goes around him?
And then he's hanging upwards. And we stay that way. I know what we're doing. We are showing that he is still in control. That is what that camera shot is telling us. Even though he is hanging upside down, we're turning it to show that he is still in control of the situation. My issue is it looks weird and it bothers me, and I don't like it. Like, on just a purely aesthetic level, I don't like hanging up. It looks weird to me.
I kind of don't have a problem with it.
That's
Maybe
fine.
I've seen that more often than you or something. It doesn't bug me. I don't know.
No, they won't.
Now, I will say, I think he breaks out of the voice a little bit there. I have a tough time with that delivery, or that line, or just...
Yeah.
Ready to believe in good.
Like, it's because he pauses and he's breathing. He's having trouble doing the voice.
And some of it is it's almost too sappy for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't want these characters to be speaking in abstractions like this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it veers too much into this, like... I guess we already have that a little bit with the White Knight, Dark Knight thing earlier, but just, like we spell out thematically stuff too much at the end with the, you know, he can take it, he's the Dark Knight, and I've never cared for that whole thing.
I really like that line, though. Madness, as you know, is like gravity. That's the Batman, you're just as crazy as I am kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, and also remember that the place where he started to maybe go over the line was when he dropped the guy, gravity.
But also, there he says, I think we'll be doing this forever.
Yep.
Which, here's the thing, it sucks because of what Rises is, and what Rises says, and how it doesn't build on these ideas at all. But also, in the theater, I thought, that line was weird for me, because he's already dead. I already knew.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, but, I'm just saying, like, in the moment of seeing this in the theater, like, I had, like, a thing where I'm like, oh,
which is why, and I don't know if I've ever gone on record to say this, and this might be blasphemy for some people, I've always said recast it. I would never have had a problem with that.
I don't need it recast, but I need him to not... I need that movie to not act like he doesn't exist.
No, me too, but what I'm saying is, like, in the third movie, don't necessarily recast it, but if you were going to keep going and you needed to bring him back, leave the option open. I would get a movie or two up, but you know, beyond it. But
he needs to be talked about. He's too important for this city.
I've never agreed with Nolan with this like idea of it's more respectful to the actor to simply pretend like there is no Joker.
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't say it like that. He said we just don't even want to mention it. We just don't even want to bring it up. The problem is you're dealing with too much with the ideas from Dark Knight. Make Rises not so much a sequel to this movie then. And that's always been my issue with it. Is Dark Knight is not... I mean, in a lot of ways it does build on the ideas of Begins, but in a broader way. We should be doing that with Rises. It shouldn't be...
If it picked up another 6 months later and he was still being Batman, it would feel way more believable.
It shouldn't be about the note that she wrote and the decision they made at the end of this movie, etc., etc.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what the... Because there's a difference between, like, sequels and then, like... continuations, and like I don't think we have a distinct word for them, but there's a difference between like
it's
Lethal Weapon 2 versus like the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, but I mean I think there is a difference. I think it's like, you know, we call everything an installment, but is it an episode in that sense? Like an episode implies serialized. We have a story that keeps going versus standalone pieces that take place in the same universe. You know,
and this feels more like a standalone piece that takes place in the same universe.
Yeah. And Rises tries to make it a trilogy retroactively, which I always thought was just kind of a mistake.
It's a huge mistake.
Like, even if I loved that movie, I still wouldn't like that choice.
No, because you don't walk out of this movie going, I can't wait to see how the story ends. You walk out of this movie like it's... And
it does feel like a cliffhanger.
Batman Begins.
To a degree, like... Yes, but you expect the next time you see him for the police to be after him.
No,
I mean, you do have that.
No, what I mean is... I mean, the trilogy. I don't think you leave this movie going, I can't wait to see how these two films wrap up.
This is not a second act of something.
No, this is not a second act of something. This is...
And it's structured differently. It's kind of a different sort of film.
This is more of the... We are still building a universe here. We're not ready to tear this universe down.
I mean, you notice how there's no ninja stuff in this movie? Like, the first movie is in some ways a kung fu movie as much as it's a crime drama. Sort of.
Yeah.
I say that as a person that has seen no real old-school kung fu movies.
No, there's certainly some of that, or at least some inspiration for that in the Tibet stuff. I
think this is a Harvey Dent Two-Face that works really well without going all the way to the multiple personality thing.
Yeah. One day, someone will do a Harvey or do a Two-Face that's obsessed with number 2, and it won't be silly. Because I feel like every time someone does like the serious Two-Face, we immediately abandon the 2 motif.
Yeah, you're right. It would be cool if we could fight, because I mean, it's about dichotomy. It's about duality.
It's always just a split personality. That's how we do them serious. It's 2 personalities and it's a mental condition. But crazy people get fixated on things. Why wouldn't he be fixated on number 2? Like, why does that have to be stupid and silly and...
Well, I think sometimes there's too many fixations at once. Like, just because you have, you know, a scarred side of your face, you have to be obsessed with 2, and you've got the coin, and you're obsessed with that, and yeah, I mean, the Riddler has the 1 fixation. You know, Two-Face has like 5.
Yeah. But they're all thematically connected.
They are. But I think that's kind of why it seems sort of goofy, where it's just, like...
And he's attacking the second bank on the second day of the second month.
Yeah, where it seems almost like it's eccentric before it's anything. What I'm saying is we like to play it like it's part of a psychological problem, when a lot of the time it just seems like this generic obsession.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, there's a clearly dead body right over there. He ain't breathing, he ain't moving. Very dead.
I do think it's a tough psychosis to make you buy. Like,
the split personality is easier.
Well, especially if it's the split personality that's obsessed with the number 2. Like, if he's just a weird, crazy guy, and then Harvey Dent is still in there somewhere. But you know, I don't necessarily like one over the other. Like,
no, I don't either. I just haven't seen the 2-1 done in a while or seriously. And I want to see somebody do it seriously because I know there's crazy people obsessed with numbers. Like.
Well, did you notice the oh yeah, of course. Well, you know, you could make Two-Face instead of a DA start off as like a mathematician or something.
Yeah.
But I could have seen the Batman doing that, doing something like that.
No, they weren't allowed to do Two-Face.
They didn't have to. I'm just saying if they did Two-Face.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would have been a district attorney in that show. I think they would have changed it.
I don't know.
They love changing stuff in that show.
They did.
God, it looks so good.
Yeah. Yep.
But did you notice that the address where Harvey is when Joker kidnaps him has 2s in it? It's 222 something.
Okay. The other one is Avenue X, which I just don't believe
at
exists.
Cicero. Yeah, the first time I saw it, I was like, "Are you giving him a generic location that's not real? I don't really understand what's going on right now." And you can call Rachel at 555-5555.
Okay, so one of the complaints people have about this ending is why don't they say the Joker did it?
Yeah.
Okay, that works for the cops.
I didn't really I've never thought of that.
That works for the cops. They could say the Joker killed Ramirez and the mob boss. They just caught the Joker. They can't blame this on the Joker.
Yeah, because it happens after that.
Yeah, but people act like, why don't they just say the Joker did? Why do they have to say Batman did? Because Joker's caught. No one's going to believe that.
Well, no, I think the argument has always been... I mean, you'd have to come up with for an explanation for how... for what happened with Harvey Dent and how he died.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've heard more is, why don't you blame Joker for all the people that Harvey Dent killed already up to this point? Because that's the big thing that he says we can't just sweep that under the rug. Is all the people Harvey Dent killed before they caught the Joker.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That's what people are talking about when they say that.
But
I don't know how to explain this away.
Yeah. How do you explain this situation?
Yeah, it does kind of.
We were getting together for a family gathering and he fell.
But
I wanted Harvey to know that we were okay with his face.
Yeah, but assume that
my kid didn't react to his face or nothing.
You have to assume nobody knew at the face. It's not like they have an open casket funeral. And that's why it seems like you could have made up any excuse for why he dies.
Mm-hmm.
But so this is a place where thematically this is really interesting, and we kind of start like veering toward theme over story a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because this idea of Batman, it has to be whatever the city needs to be, I think is really compelling, and ultimately I would have thought that would lead us to a place of he has to always be Batman because he's the guy who can do the things other people can't do, and that that idea Alfred has of like he's not being the hero. That's what's endearing about him.
Okay,
right
so
now.
the screenplay is attributed. We were talking about this, I think, in the
because
last
what a real hero is. Let me say this real quick: is someone who is always selfless and gives up, themselves for the greater good. So he is a hero even while not being one. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we were talking about this in Gotham Knight. The credit is story is Christopher Nolan and David Goyer.
Yeah.
Screenplay is Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan.
Okay.
Which I buy. I buy that Goyer didn't touch this script, but he worked out the story with Nolan. Like, I buy that Nolan did the first draft of this.
Yeah, me too.
Once you watch some of Person of Interest, it is very clear that Jonathan is the much more talented writer, and that I think a lot of what's great about this movie is him, and makes me really not believe how much of... Because I think Rises is solely attributed to him as a writer, and I do not buy that.
Yeah, I can't remember if Christopher Nolan's name is on that screenplay. I just can't remember right now. But I still say there's no way Goyer didn't take a pass at that, and that there's not Goyer lines in that.
No, there's absolutely Goyer lines in that. And there's almost nothing that would be a Goyer line in this. Nothing feels Goyer-y.
No, except for some of the speechifying that Batman has at the end. I could have seen Goyer writing that.
But Nolan writes like that too. No one speechifies.
And, again, to be fair, I don't know how else you write that stuff. Like, I think that's tough to not make clunky.
And I don't think it's completely clunky. Like, I think it works in the piece.
I don't like Batman saying, like, this city just showed you that good triumphs over evil. I don't like putting it in those terms. Like,
I think he's talking to the Joker on the terms the Joker's been talking for the entire movie.
Kind of.
Yeah, but
but Joker's talking about it in a much more philosophical and like a much more psychological way, not a good versus evil kind of way. I don't like Batman putting it that way.
That's fair. Hope, maybe. I guess maybe would have been a light.
See, again, I don't like that. I don't think you have to talk about those kinds of abstractions. You should talk in human condition terms.
Yeah.
But
it's better than not trying to do it, like in The Dark Knight Rises, where he just shows up and says, "I'm ready to stop you."
Like, even if he said, this city just showed you that human beings are not inherently evil. I just don't like not even just the word good. Just I might sound like I'm quibbling over semantics. There's something about that never sat well with me. And that seemed like Hollywooded in a way that this movie is kind of too good for. I just think the rest of the script is better than that. But then, I mean, I'm talking like we don't talk in abstraction at all until we get to that. I guess the whole White Knight, Dark Knight thing and Harvey Dent, with this whole
And then some people just want to see the world burn.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's somehow that stuff didn't bother me as much. I don't know. Like that, but that's more generalities before it's platitudes. Like,
does this movie have long credits?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever sat through all of the credits, except for maybe when I saw it in theaters, but I'm not sure.
I don't know that I have either.
Because it's really crazy, but remember, this came out just after Iron Man.
Yeah,
right. We were not programmed to sit through credits.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not sure if I sat through all of the credits.
Yeah, I say this a lot, but in one way, it's hard to imagine it's been 10 years, and then in another way, you think about all the things that we didn't have 10 or 11 years ago that are just a normal part of
Whereas Iron Man does
and,
feel 10
and,
years
and,
ago.
And cinematic now. Yeah, absolutely it does. And I think that somewhat speaks to how timeless how well these movies are aging. Begins and Dark Knight are going to be really watchable in 40 or 50 years. And I mean, Iron Man is to a degree, but it also is just kind of an unfortunate thing with the Marvel method, which is, well, it's about right now. You know what I mean? And so it's cemented in, now.
Yeah, I have no idea how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to age as a whole.
They'll feel like period pieces. In a way this doesn't. Yeah, because they're very much rooted in the time we live in. And I mean, like, this is too, you know, idea-wise and somewhat technology-wise, but it still feels, you know, a little bit out of time in a way that those don't. And these don't make pop culture references, those do, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess what I was going to say is, you know, this I don't feel like is a decade old. But then Iron Man and the Marvel movies in general, I'm like, wow, there was a time when I didn't sit around wondering if there was going to be something at the end of credits.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've now had 10 years of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not like Marvel was the first thing that ever had an after-credits scene, but you didn't expect it.
10 years... Well, now everyone does it.
Yeah.
I really think it's kind of unfortunate that DC started doing it. I don't necessarily agree with Christopher Nolan when he says real movies don't have those.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I don't...
I do like
that
the
feels
sentiment
like
of...
That feels like defeat. That feels like giving up. The DC movies putting them there.
I'm of two minds about that, but I do... I would understand the sentiment if instead of saying real movie, he had said it needs to not be an important part of it. It needs to not feel like it's part of that movie. Mm-hmm. Because that's how I've always felt about it. Where it's like, don't put a scene that should have been in your movie at the end. Don't pretend like the credits are part of the movie. The movie's over now. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't get to the end and then see like Bucky walk into the museum. That's part of that movie. Yeah. You end the movie with that. That doesn't go at the end of the credits.
10 years and we still haven't figured out how to keep those credits uniform, those post-credit scenes. I still don't know if it's going to be in the middle or at the end or both or a bunch.
Well, they do that on purpose so they can surprise you with them as much as they can. And it makes sense that they move that around a lot because they know you're waiting for it. And so they're trying to build anticipation.
But I think it's unacceptable when they throw one in the middle and then they don't have an ending one. I don't think it's okay if there's not... You're wasting people's time if you don't put one at the end of the credits. The big one can be before that, but there needs to be something at the end of the credits. Otherwise, you are wasting people's time.
I don't fully disagree with that. At least with the Marvel movies, because we've been conditioned.
Yeah, specifically with the Marvel movies.
I don't really have a problem with it with Suicide Squad because it wasn't right in smack dab in the middle of the credits. We got a title and a couple of credits, and then like you still felt like you were in the movie.
Yeah. Well, and you didn't feel the need to wait. Like, there's one of them. I forget which one it is. There's one that really bothered me where I was like, it's Age of Ultron. There was nothing at the end of the credits.
Because the credits are so long.
And you're waiting. Or at the very least, you need to have like a PSA at the beginning of the movie. It's like, hey, this is where it's going to be. You do not have to wait after this point.
Yeah, and like, yeah, you can look it up online and stuff.
Yeah, but then you run the risk of knowing what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's the principle thing. You shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I didn't expect we'd be talking about after credit scenes with Dark Knight.
With a movie that doesn't have an after credit scene.
So, that was fun, and I'm glad that we finally did a commentary on this.
I think it went pretty well.
I think so too. This may or may not be the only commentary we ever do on this. We keep talking about the Mania commentaries as this other separate kind of thing and not the official commentaries, but then some of these I've been happy enough with. I don't know the point of making another commentary because I feel like I would just say all the same things, or maybe even wouldn't be as articulate as I was this time. So we're gonna play that by ear and be real case by case. And lately we've been doing more of the Marvel, the Mania commentaries than we have other commentaries. But I guess that makes a lot of sense because we're doing almost a year's worth of commentaries in a really short amount of time. So there's no way we would make, like last year Marvel Mania we did 44 commentaries. There's no way we would have made 44 commentaries during the year. Yeah. So to say we're making more of these than the normal ones is redundant. Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to be tackling the Superman Batman Public Enemies, which I've not seen in a good long time. I did do a rewind on this, so I'm sure some story stuff will come back to me. But this is the first of the DC direct-to-video animated movies with Batman that's not that vignette thing. And
still not a full Batman movie. Under the Hood is our first full Batman movie.
It's crazy it took that long.
What a different world we live in.
Yeah, it's weird that they already had a Superman one, which and then they had and then they had New Frontier after that.
Yeah, and they had Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman comes out before that.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, Wonder Woman's the one directly after Gotham Knight.
Green Lantern doesn't come out before that, does it?
I don't think it might.
You know, I've never seen either of those, First Flight or...
Neither have I.
Really?
Neither have I. I've never seen them. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I occasionally get requests for rewinds on those, because I think there are people who really like at least one of those. I don't know if Emerald Knights is or what is it called? Not Emerald Knight. We're talking about
no, it's Emerald Knight.
Is that what it is?
I think it's Emerald Knight.
Okay, I caught myself because I was like, well, that sounds like a Batman title. It's on the shelf.
What I've gathered is that the first first flight people like and think is kind of watered down, but that was before the movie came out. So people are like, yeah, but we're gonna get to see the story told in the movie, and then the movie came out, and but I think people were like Emerald Knights because it's a vignette piece.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a bunch of Green Lantern
I've owned that for years. Have never seen it. Didn't know what it was.
I've seen neither of them, but...
So anyway, this for tomorrow, and this will not be the first time we've talked about Batman with Superman, because we did the...
Batman, Superman...
Because we did World's Finest.
World's Finest.
But
interestingly, it is Superman. It's not Batman Superman. It is Superman Batman.
Well, yeah, but that's because that was the comic line.
I thought the comic line alternated issues.
It was always officially called Superman Batman.
Okay. Okay.
As far as I understand it, and then the New 52 version was Batman Superman.
Okay.
Or a version, just the team up thing that they did. But anyway, well, folks, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan,
and I'm Eric,
and we'll see you again tomorrow.